All right, we're live. I'm Joshua Kemble, and this is my live stream. I am an art director. I've been doing that for about 8 years. I've been doing graphic design and illustration professionally for about 20 years. And when I'm not doing graphic design, illustration, or art direction, I am often at home working on these crazy graphic novels that are all created by me. So, graphic novels like Two Stories, which is my graphic novel that tries to destigmatize hard conversations about depression and panic disorder, and that you can get at bookstores everywhere online, as well as Jacob's Apartment, which is a coming of age slice of life doomed romance comic in the vein of Ghost World. If you put that in a blender and mixed it with Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind and you like that flavor, it's that kind of book, and that's available at bookstores everywhere online as well. I'll probably play trailers for these things as the night wears on. It's about like midnight, so I'm doing a night gang stream. I was trying to get back on about an hour after I ended the last stream, and I had to get my son to bed. I was like, I'm going to take a really quick power nap, set my alarm for 10, and then, well, I overslept my alarm. And comics have to get done. So, what am I going to be working on tonight? I am going to be working on Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is a graphic novel written by Lavender Vroman about the Brownings, the famous poets, and their indulgences in spiritualism and seances and the world of Victorian shenanigans. So I'm really excited about it. I'm working on page 73, and I have just woken up from my all too long nap, but I feel refreshed. And I need to finish the tones for page 73, Hell or High Water. So that is my goal during the stream tonight. There is a possibility that we might watch a very entertaining debate and do commentary on it. There's, it's kind of a weird one. So again,
hate touching athlete's foot. Use Lotrimin.
My goodness, I don't know if you guys heard that audio. I accidentally hit play, and it was like an ad for Athlete's Foot from the debate. But anyhow, so we might dip into that a little bit later. It's an interesting debate about Steven Crowder, the political debater, and whether the guy, like, he had some leaked video footage of like an argument and recently, and it's whether the guy is abusive or not. So I don't know. It's a little different than the content I usually would stream and comment on, but it's an interesting debate, and I haven't watched it yet. And it's between Destiny, who's a debater that I actually like to watch a lot on YouTube, as well as, like, I think he comes from the Twitch space, but I've been following his content for quite a few years. Very sharp, very good debater. With him, not so erudite, who's another person within his kind of orbit and sphere of the debate world, and this family called the Thorp family, which frankly seem a little mentally deranged. so it would be interesting. It's a debate that just I've had on the back burner to watch. And it might be interesting content to listen to while we work on art. So if you join the stream a little bit later, maybe I'll take a poll or something. We'll see. It's a midnight stream. It's always hard to know if the night gang will show up in full force, especially when I'm starting this late. But regardless, we're going to start working on the comic, talk a little bit, see where that goes, and then possibly watch this debate, maybe play a game of Risk if I'm able to tone the rest of this page, and then call it a night. So that's the agenda. That's the plan. Let's get into our art cam. Before that, though, I really want to highlight something. Philip Chandler. So earlier today, I had Jim Lujan came and hopped on the stream, and good friend of mine, really amazing animator. And he also mentioned that he's going to be on Philip Chandler's channel. Philip Chandler is one of our friends from Canada who's we seem to just have an influx of talented artists and illustrators hailing from Canada. And he's a really cool guy. And speaking of Philip Chandler, I just wanted to show this off before I switch screens. This is Philip Chandler's drawing of me that he sent me, and it was one of the most flattering things that's happened to me. And I feel like that's a really good caricature, especially on days like today where my hair's all out of control. That looks pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate to my looks. And anyhow, so Philip Chandler, good friend of the show, and Jim Lujan, good friend of the show. So I'm sure that's going to be a really good stream to catch if you haven't yet. So head over to his channel later today, I guess. It's actually Sunday. And also, I said this on my stream yesterday, but happy Mother's Day, because it is actually technically Mother's Day at this point. Okay. So I'm going to have I've been having these Golden Road beers today. This one's called a Guava Cart. And so I'm going to be having that and working on art. Let's get to our art cam. Okay. Okay. Our art cam is basically this is showing you just me working on my tablet. This is my lovely mug where you can see me comment on what I'm doing or just talk about random things. And then the page that I'm working on is over here. If you're curious where we're at in the story, I recapped it on the previous, I think it was live stream 253. So check that out. But we're just going to dive right in. So what I'm doing right now, my goal, my objective before going back to bed is to finish panels 4, 5, and 6. This actually may not take as long. People who are longtime viewers of the stream might know that I have a habit of saying, hey, this isn't going to take that long. Maybe this will take, an hour. And then it's like 5 hours later. You'll see me still working on the same page. But in theory, this shouldn't take as long because we only have to tone a head and like half a body for the last 2 panels. So the last 2 panels aren't quite as complicated to tone. And so that might be to our benefit. So that might mean that there might be time to play a game of Risk. I am obsessed with the game of Risk, so it would be fun to be able to get one of those games in before turning it in for the night. But for now, what we're going to do is go ahead and get going on the tones on this page where we left off on the last stream yesterday. For some, it might be still the same day, but I'm pretty sure for most people it is Sunday, Mother's Day, and so let me think about whether we should dive into the Thorp stuff, which is fascinating. It's not a group that I follow on like a YouTube channel that I follow, but they are not without controversy. It seems like a family that where the father and children have like a very questionably close relationship, and it's received a lot of scrutiny on the interwebs. I've seen them, I think, debate once because I do follow a little bit of the debate sphere. And needless to say, the performance in the debate wasn't anything to like write home about, but it was definitely entertaining and interesting in a kind of strange but fascinating way. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I think we'll just dive into that. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. If you guys enjoy this content, and I just have recently, only maybe a couple streams ago started including commentary on my streams, but I think it's an entertaining thing to do whilst drawing. So here's your task, especially if you're a longtime viewer of my stream. Is this something you enjoy? Should I include things like this that are kind of more in the political world on my stream, or should I just steer clear of that like the plague? You know, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on that. Okay, before we get into that though, let's just finish toning this guy and kind of catch up with everybody and talk a little bit about the day. So I'm excited about how this page is coming out. I would like to ideally finish this page end of day tomorrow. I doubt I'm going to be able to stream. I would like to try, but I'm not sure since it's Mother's Day. I'm kind of writing the day off a little bit. Like, I'm guessing we're going to be doing some stuff most of the day. But I would like to like potentially get the colors done for this page later today. That would be kind of keeping right on track with schedule. But for those of you who don't know, this is a graphic novel. I think I kind of described it a little bit, so I won't describe the plot so much as the objective here. Victorian historical fiction graphic novel that is going to be over 200 pages, and we're cracking away at page 73, so we're close to halfway through, which is kind of insane. I'm doing this for Turner Publishing, which is a really cool publishing company. So far, my experience with their editorial staff has been really cool. We've gone through a few editors during the process of this because there were some acquisitions and some unusual happenings that don't happen on every book deal. But considering all the kind of tumultuous path of this book, it's been actually very seamless and smooth, and everybody's been very polite, worked with us, seems really interested in the book and the success of the book. Even when it comes to like launch and release dates, there's been a lot of talk of trying to plan those around historical dates regarding Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And then Elizabeth Browning, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know who that is. You probably do and don't even realize it. Let's see here. I believe Elizabeth Barrett Browning is the writer of How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. So if you've ever watched even a Warner Brothers cartoon where somebody is writing a love poem, they're most likely riffing on lines that were written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Okay. I feel like his hair is not quite working for me. Like, I need to actually kind of get in there and do individual strands a little bit or darken it up. I got to figure that out. Let's darken it up a little bit. And then let's play our strange debate that I have not watched in advance, but should promise to be, if anything, entertaining. So I should mention some stuff about, I guess, Destiny before I kind of get into this. This is a guy named Stephen Bonnell Jr. the second, I believe is his real name, who started streaming when like back in the day. He used to, I think, stream like StarCraft, and he'd play like video games. And at the time that he was streaming, the internet was very much very right-leaning in political commentary, and so there weren't a lot of people on the left like who were in online spaces. and particularly in the Twitch space that he was streaming in. And what he would do was like he was a professional video game player, but he also used to get in these conversations with people while playing. And what ended up happening, and I might be recapping this wrong, was he was so good at like debating people that ended up being the content people would show up for rather than the video game streaming. And so he's sort of built a career out of very confidently shredding figures on the right in debate. And he's really good at it. He, is not without controversy. He's like any other political online figure. There's a lot of potential controversies. He's also not necessarily popular on the right or on the left. He's not unpopular. He's got kind of his own following and his own crew of people who've been watching him for years. I enjoy watching his channel. I don't agree with everything he says, but I really appreciate the art of what he does. He's very good at debate. So now keep in mind, when I say good at debate, this is more like online debate, blood sports, getting very very like, it's not quite like academic debate. It's more like a ringside seat to a fight kind of debate. But he's incredibly talented at that, and so that's one of the reasons I've followed his content for years. He always has interesting takes. He tends to not be easily swayed by his own party on his opinions, and so he can be a really interesting guy to listen to. So that is what we're going to do commentary on, and my shortcuts are really freaking out right now. It's funny, if you hit E, it just gives you the eraser tool, but there's some kind of glitch going on here where to go from the shortcut for a brush to the eraser tool is like, it causes me to have to say E like 5 times, whereas like generally it's not going to be that difficult to like toggle back and forth from the eraser tool to the brush tool. So there might be something weird going on with my tablet, but we'll plug through it. And here we go. We're gonna watch a very interesting YouTube video from Modern Day Debate, who I've done commentary on before. And again, I don't use ad blockers. I feel like they're kind of unethical. Like, I want the streamers to get paid for me to watch, and so I don't mind suffering through the ads. So we will suffer through the ads together. We'll play this, see where it goes, and again, if you guys tune in as this is going, this isn't entertaining or interesting, let me know, and I'll comment as it goes. Hopefully this will be a good example.
Ultra no touch cures with 1 week treatment.
No. Okay. Apparently somebody
probably know Vistaprint for business
did
cards,
advertising
but did you know
research.
we also print that and that and that and that too. Can't forget about that.
So let's skip
that
that ad. Okay. Yeah, apparently somebody who is researching athlete's foot was like, I think people who watch political debate really need to worry about their athlete's foot, so we're going to pay for airtime on that. Wonder if my channel's ever had an athlete's foot ad. But keep in mind, like, Stephen Bonnell also is huge in the world of political debate. He sort of coined and started the whole political debate scene on Twitch. Even though now I think he's banned on Twitch permanently. So this might not be the most unoffensive, but it'll be an interesting thing to kind of comment on. And again, I like the exchange of ideas. I know next to nothing about the Thorp family, except watching a few debates and being like, it's a little strange to see an adult kid with like a kind of questionable relationship with their father being so close to their parent at such an older age is a little, at least to my kind of, at 18, you should be relatively independent. Like, obviously have family ties and stuff like that. But my own kind of perspective, my goals for my own kid and family and stuff like that. That family seems like the antithesis of my my own system. So it'll be interesting to see this debate roll out. But hopefully they make a good case, because I do think quite often it's interesting to hear two very strong perspectives on something. Not so erudite, I don't follow as much. I believe her expertise is more in the realms of psychology. And then, again, the full debate's on modern day debate. And my shading of this may not take the entire time of the debate. So as I'm working on art and commenting, if you're really interested in it, I'd encourage you to check out their channel. Maybe watch the debate in full after the fact if it was interesting to you. All right, guys. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm just letting the intro play because I'm also drawing, so buys a little time. Gives me a little prep to kind of explain who the players are. Oh, okay. I guess they'll probably explain it during the debate, but Steven Crowder, who's the subject of the debate.
Hey, everybody. Tonight we're going to debate, is Steven Crowder innocent? And before we get into our intro statements, we are going to review some footage that's relevant to the discussion. So, Grace, you're ready with your screen share?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Hey, you guys, before they get into this too, I should give a heads up. This is not the most pleasant footage. So just saying, this is probably like if you got kids who watch the stream or something. I know I don't mark my stuff as if it's geared towards kids, but just giving you a heads up, this is gonna be for adults in the room, not for kids. So if let's see here. That would go for like probably the topic of this debate too. Are you guys seeing this? I wonder if you're able to see this. I don't know if you can see the outline. So if I hit B, it literally won't go back to the brush. And then if I hit E, it like toggles back and forth, it bounces back and forth. It's very interesting. These are the shortcuts for brush and eraser. I'm kind of curious if those of you who use Photoshop have noticed that recently, that toggling between the eraser and the brush tool has gotten a little strange. I also realize I made a very bad mistake here. Her dress is not his jacket, and I was treating it as such. So we'll fix that, and then we'll watch this. Okay, I think all the warnings are out of the way. If you're sticking here, I'm assuming you're an adult who can handle a little bit of controversy. All right, here we go.
Do you see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
I see it.
All right. Can you hear it? I just played a little bit of it. Or can you hear it?
Mm-mm.
God damn it. Oh, I see. I got it. Hang on. Sorry about that.
You're kind of having some issues with the audio, apparently.
I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary of abusive and cruel. You were not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries. Steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's not unreasonable, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes, other than that, you see the love of that. No. Other than that, no, you're not taking the car.
Steven,
You're not taking the car.
Steven,
You are not.
then I
taking
will ask them to pick me up.
This is a controversial video that
Right?
was leaked a couple weeks ago. Let me know if you guys can hear this in the comments.
Feeling some constraints?
Steven,
Like I can't
Steven.
go. Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're gonna take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either. Do
I
you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Steven,
The only way out of it is discipline and respect. It's the only way out of it, or we're at an impasse.
we are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline and respect.
Steven,
Yeah. There you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up, Steven.
Hillary,
Steven,
you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Steven, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Steven, your beast is sick. Your beast
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. You need to just stop and baby for a little bit. Okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you. And the fact is, when I go, look, I need an A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it. You go, no. But I love you more than life itself. Okay. Put on some gloves. No. But I love you more than life itself. That's not fair. That's not fair, and it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right. We're at an impasse. Become someone, listen to me, day in and day out, worthy of a wife. No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife. As a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not gonna engage. I'm not gonna engage anymore. I'm gonna go. I'll get text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not gonna.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything.
So I should give a little context to this. I think it was a couple weeks ago. It might have just been a week ago where this video footage was leaked. I just want to give people a little context as to why, like, especially people who may not be like following the nuances and ins and outs of like the political sphere. I'm also noticing a little bit of lag on the stream. So if you're hearing like delays or anything like that, or you're seeing choppy video, let me know. It might just be on my end. But anyhow, so this stuff leaked about it, it like Crowder has for years kind of talked about like traditional marriage and waiting for marriage, and been very kind of like very proud and a little bit cocky about his own like marriage and like their ethics and how they stick to like these standard kind of like biblical ethics and stuff in their marriage. And then it was revealed a couple weeks ago that I believe him and his wife were going through a divorce. And he was kind of implying a lot of it was kind of her instigating. And I think in response, his wife kind of leaked this video to kind of show some of the reasons and potential. Like the claim is that this is abuses, that abusive behavior, mainly psychological, had kind of driven her off. So again, it's like a personal life kind of thing. But this video was leaked and it's been met with mixed results, where there's one side of the camp that thinks this is just like a snapshot of a regular relationship, and there's another side that kind of thinks this is not a regular relationship and it's extremely abusive. There's also some people who like claim that the video had been tampered with and edited to kind of paint Crowder in the worst light ever. I'm less familiar with this whole thing, but that's just catching you up with what I'm familiar with. Maybe this will educate us a little more on the topic. So here we go.
You just said I love you. I'm committed to you. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm good.
Walk the dog. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dog? Don't you take Betty?
All right, there we go. Now I'm back in. So with that
Interesting.
context
So the
in
debate's
play
going to
there,
begin.
if there isn't any other footage for us to review, we will kick it into our intro statements here. So we'll kick it over to Grace to start, I think, there.
Okay, sure.
I did it my way.
Free advertisement for this this person. Also, my internet connection is being a little choppy right now, so let me know if these are not coming through, but they should be.
I face it all. Lost it all.
Okay. Continue.
Okay, sure. Abuse is an accusation that our society loves to hurl against men. You can hear it in their voice when they say it. Abuse. He's an abuser. He's an abusive husband. And who is the ultimate victim of this abuse? A pregnant woman. This entire video is the perfect setup to take a man down. I think something important for this debate is defining what abuse is. The definition of abuse is to use something to bad effect or for bad purpose, to misuse something. And within relationships, abuse is generally considered to mean treating either another person with violence, cruelty, harm, or force. Holding someone accountable is not abuse. An employer telling his employee to do better, to be worthy to work for him, is not abuse. Telling someone that they need to have discipline and respect is not abuse. A parent telling their kid to do better in school or in sports is not abuse. Getting frustrated and raising your voice is not abuse. None of those qualify as treating another person with violence, cruelty, harm, or force. And nobody should bat an eye if anybody, male or female, says these kinds of things. Nobody should be concerned if somebody asks another person to be disciplined and respectful. But when a man corrects a woman, even though our society says they believe that men and women are equal and should be given equal treatment, suddenly the man is the abuser and the wife is the victim. Hillary Crowder signed up for Steven Crowder. She freely married him. No one doubts that he is a driven, intense, engaged man. He drives his employees hard. He drives himself hard. But when his drive and his focus is turned on his wife, and he also wants her to live up to the promises she freely made him to support him and to do her wifely duties as they both agreed as Christians,
All right,
he's deemed an
let me
abuser.
pause for a second here. Did that pause? Okay, I think it paused. Man, my internet connection today is going to really mess up the commentary ability here, but this is a pet peeve of mine. Again, like, I really, I'm actually a Christian, and so I always find it really frustrating when Christians use 2 or 3 verses in the Bible to kind of exploit and control their wives. Like, I think there's a verse that talks about wives submitting to their husbands that gets way abused by men in the church. And a lot of those men in the church will kind of ignore the verse that follows it that talks about husbands serving their wives as Christ served the church. So if you look at, like, if you are a Christian, right, the idea of these, like, submissive wives that are just at the beck and call of their husbands is not only, like, kind of putting women I don't know, this is my own opinion, right, but I feel like it is not only, like, if misinterpreted, it's not only putting women in a compromised position with their husbands, but it's also like letting their husbands off the hook from any sort of marital responsibility. And that's not the case. Like, that's not the case of the intent of even the verses that are being exploited, in my opinion. And so it's just a little frustrating because, again, like, even if you look at the way, like, if I just hypothetically, even if you're not a Christian or whatever, and you look at it and you're like, okay, they think that husbands are to serve their wives like Christ served the church. How did Christ serve the church, right? And if you look at Christ, he was a servant leader who literally died for the church, died for people, to be saved. And so the point being, like, you should sort of be dying for your wife, like, meaning, living in servitude to your wife. And so it's not like, again, like that verse, I see it all over kind of quote unquote Christian culture, of men kind of using it to really abuse and manipulate the people they're with. So the fact that, there's a lot of things here, but the fact that they're saying, hey, refusing to do their wifely duties, what the hell is that? Like, I don't think I've ever talked to my wife about her wifely duties. That's insanity. So let's continue, but I just want to chime in because, again, this person's claiming Christianity as a justification for what seems pretty abusive. And I just want to clarify, and they're like, all Christians are on board with what this person's claiming is Christian.
And from what we've heard later, Stephen apparently has the
We
ability to
missed
completely.
I feel like we missed a whole section. I got to back it up. That's insane. Okay. How did Stephen already start if Grace hadn't finished? Okay, we didn't even get to. Maybe my audio is really wacky, but I feel like we didn't even finish. We got to go back to Grace Thorp's part. Did I accidentally hit the mute?
Activists are costing us all, but no more. Congressman Mike Garcia and the
My
House
apologies.
just
We'll get
passed
right back to
historic
it.
bipartisan energy.
I also don't want to watch
Battle
political-
not with monsters, lest ye become a monster.
Wait, what is this nonsense? Okay, we lost our video, so we're on a Lex Friedman video. Okay, which, by the way, Lex Friedman's awesome, but my internet's really freaking out. Give me 2 seconds. We'll get
be
back
able
to
to be here,
Okay.
and he won't be able
We
to
got to back up
make
quite a bit.
Battle not with
No.
monsters, lest ye.
Why?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay. We're going to back it up so that we can hear the end of her point, because I don't feel like we were that far into the debate, and it's sort of insanity that we are suddenly that far in the debate. Okay.
So we'll kick it over to Grace.
Okay, we'll re-listen to Grace.
Okay, sure.
I must have hit
Abuse is an
mute
accusation
instead of
that
pause
our
or
society loves to hurl against men. You can hear it in their voice when they say it. Abuse. He's an abuser. He's an abusive husband. And who is the ultimate victim of this abuse? A pregnant woman. This entire video is the perfect setup to take a man down.
By the way, this
I think something important for this debate is
is an
defining
appeal
what
to
abuse
emotion,
is.
like right at the beginning.
The definition of abuse is to use something to bad effect or for bad purpose, to misuse something. And within relationships, abuse is generally considered to mean treating either another person with violence, cruelty, harm, or force. Holding someone accountable is not abuse. An employer telling his employee to do better, to be worthy to work for him, is not abuse.
Let me pause.
Telling someone that they need.
Sorry, I hope this doesn't screw up the whole video thing again. Even what she's saying about an employer telling an employee to be better, to be worthy, is not abuse. You got to be careful with that, because like there's employment law, and you kind of can't drive your employees like cattle or something just because they're employed for you. Like, yeah, there can be reasonable expectations in a workplace, but even workplaces have laws about reasonable expectations, making sure that you're giving people, the equivalent tools to accomplish the task at hand. Again, like setting clear goals that are achievable, and providing the resources to do so. Those are all expectations that are placed on employers, at least in California. So it's not quite that's true. Like, technically what she's saying about that not being abuse in a workplace, it depends on the context that is being brought up. So anyhow, let's continue.
Need to have discipline and respect is not abuse.
That's
a parent
horrible
telling their
thing
kid
say
to do
somebody.
better in school or in sports is not abuse. Getting frustrated and raising your voice is not abuse. None of those qualify as treating another person with violence, cruelty, harm, or force. And nobody should bat an eye if anybody, male or female, says these kinds of things. Nobody should be concerned if somebody asks another person to be disciplined and respectful. But when a man corrects a woman, even though our society says they believe that men and women are equal and should be given equal treatment, suddenly the man is the abuser and the wife is the victim. Hillary Crowder signed up for Steven Crowder. She freely married him. No one doubts that he is a driven, intense, engaged man. He drives his employees hard. He drives himself hard. But when his drive and his focus is turned on his wife, and he also wants her to live up to the promises she freely made him, to support him and to do her wifely duties as they both agreed as Christians,
I hate that line.
he's deemed an abuser.
Wifely duties.
I think the real question here is whether a woman can fail as a wife. Is it part of patriarchal oppression of women to say that there are obligations and responsibilities involved in being a wife? Can you just walk away from a commitment that you made to a man freely for life with no consequences, just because it isn't working for you anymore? I don't think men are given that choice. Women need to be held accountable. Can it be too harsh? Yes. Can women and men get themselves into situations where they're too far over their head with marriage and kids and everything else? Yes. But both men and women need to be honest when they get into that kind of situation and not blame the other partner for emotional abuse. It shouldn't be allowed for a woman to go nuclear on her husband because our society gives that option to women as an easy out. When you get overwhelmed, when you're failing and you can't handle the guilt that you feel from failing, you just blame your husband and you go nuclear on him. I think in essence, we can either look at this situation one of two ways. You take the video on its own and you see a frustrated man trying to hold his wife accountable for responsibilities that she agreed to, and her refusing to listen to him and walking out. If you take this video...
So I want to be clear here. My wife and I have been married for a pretty long time. And there's just a couple things about the video that were really, again, you can't judge a relationship just based on a fight, right? So again, like, this is just in the context of the video. However, I don't think in the entirety of my marriage have I talked to my wife like that. And not only that, when she was pregnant, no. Like, it's just bizarre because there's also, for anybody who's been through the whole parenting beginnings, it is really hard that late in a pregnancy to, I think, for a woman not to feel emotionally overwhelmed and burdened and expecting the performance of that person to match pre-pregnancy. I don't know. Again, like, the video doesn't look good. That's all I'm saying. It's not just like a normal, I don't know. To me, that is not normal. If you watch that video and you feel like that's a normal relationship, having just a normal tit for tat, you should probably get out of your relationship.
In the full context of the situation, you see a woman who checked out from this relationship months ago, wound her husband up at his most vulnerable moment before a major surgery, saved a clip for 2 years, and after he told his audience about their divorce because it was increasingly becoming public and was going to be used against him, dropped that clip to a scumbag journalist to try to destroy her husband's name. Either way, he's the innocent one, and she is not. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your opening statement there, Grace. So over to you, Ben. You got 8 minutes left there.
By the way,
for
I
your
think Ben
opening
is
statement.
actually Grace's dad.
Thanks for
which
being
is
here.
Okay,
great.
thanks, Ryan. I don't have so much a prepared speech as what I want to point out here, and it takes a few viewings to see, but there are major things that are missed in when this narrative is told, sympathetic to the wife here. The first and major one is that 4 days after this Nest video occurred, Steven Crowder went in for elective surgery. Now, elective surgery just means non-emergency surgery. The surgery that was performed involved cutting his sternum, I think, open and inserting titanium bars to prevent his chest from collapsing. And for them to schedule that only a month before his wife is to give birth means it was a dire situation. So to say that she's pregnant and in a vulnerable health situation, he is also, although you can't see it, it's not the type of thing you see, but he said on a video that his heart was pumping only at about 50% what it should be pumping at. Secondly, this was during COVID. And another thing that's odd that no one's really noticed is that he says if she leaves, he won't be able to be here and he won't be able to make calls. What he's talking about is post-surgery. And I've known friends. I know a friend who had this surgery, and I've seen online people talk about this. You can't even raise your hand to make a phone call. Okay. And she has no.
So he's pulling a lot of context out of what is just a video and making some pretty big jumps based on kind of like external stuff that like no one can really know. And so that's going to be interesting. I wonder if they kind of bring that to him as well. Another thing, and I know this is a weird thing, and I haven't really followed a lot about the Crowder stuff. So again, I wouldn't know this, but I was going to ask if you were getting surgery so that your chest does not cave in, is that elective surgery? Like your chest caving in would be a pretty serious issue. I would think that might not be elective surgery. That's just my own take on it. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. If you know better, let me know. Okay, let's continue.
Reason to walk out. I mean, there's obviously a problem, but what she's doing is hitting him at his most vulnerable time. But it looks like he's just kicking back.
Sorry. Okay. To compare being that far pregnant to being vulnerable for a surgery, especially if one is elective, so it wasn't necessary like at that exact moment. That's pretty bold. I don't know a lot of men or women who'd agree with that. Being a similar thing to being that far pregnant, but again, I don't know. We'll continue.
And enjoying a cigar. There are many, 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 many things like this. Another thing that I just found out yesterday, I was like, I wonder how long you have to be married to get alimony, which is an important thing for someone who's deciding to bolt. The answer in the state of Texas is 10 years. And the smartest way to file for divorce would be to do it before the 10 years, because the 10 years includes up till. So she filed at the end of the 9th year. So she could say, oh, no, I wasn't doing it for that reason. But it really looks like a setup. And Kyle is going to say women can't do 9D chess. Believe me, I believe that women can be quite smart and quite crafty. It's not 9D chess to set up a man in the way that Steven Crowder was set.
Why would he say Kyle is going to say that? I'm kind of curious. RT Looper said alpha chess needs alpha decisions. Welcome, RT. That's hilarious. Thanks for the comment. Alpha chest.
Set up by his wife, Hillary. And the real question, as Grace said, is in our society, can women ever be held accountable for anything? Can women fail? Or is it always that they have some sort of problem?
Okay, so again, like, I get that it's probably for impact and stuff, but I'm really going to be curious to see Destiny going on this guy. Because, like, he's starting very hyperbolically with a lot of things that are going to be hard when pressed on to kind of prove anything of. And again, this is just like objectively having watched Destiny for quite a few years. I think Destiny is going to eat this guy alive, honestly. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just he's very like his daughter and himself have started very much like resting on an emotional plea, which is always kind of a hard sell at the beginning of an argument. And it sounds like their arguments mostly resting on hearsay and things that were not within the video. That's just my own take, having not watched this video yet. So I'll be curious to see if they kind of just completely annihilate, because you're dealing with a lot of people who are pretty solid at debating. And like, to me, as like a person who doesn't do debate professionally, I did do debate when I was younger. To me, if I'm on a debate team or something and this guy's opening and this is his opening, I'm going to be writing down like argument from emotion. I'm going to be writing down some more suspicious things they said about like citing like wifely duties as if that's like a legitimate thing to say, citing elective surgery as like the same as being that far pregnant. It's just going to be really interesting to see how hard they go in on these two, because they haven't started with a very solid argument. However, he makes an interesting point of like maybe the timing of the divorce, if that's true. But again, a lot of this stuff isn't really visible in the video. And it sounds like a lot of what he's saying would require a lot of leaps, which again, maybe what he's saying isn't untrue, but is it provably true, right? Whereas I think we're dealing with a lot of like cold information that we're seeing with our eyes and hearing with our ears that's pretty hard to debate with. As not being abusive. But let's continue and see where Steven and not so erudite go with it. I should call him Destiny, not Steven. It's not like we're buddies or something.
Or some sort of mental illness that a man has to, or their father or their husband or someone, it's always got to be someone else's fault. And I actually think to say that women should be able to be held accountable and should be able to find solutions to problems is actually a feminist point. And anyone who says that women can't and a pregnant woman can't do things, and I know that both Stephen and Kyla have actually taken quite moderate positions on this, probably the two most moderate positions of all people I've seen react to it. Yes, they see this, but they nevertheless, even though they see there's a lot here we don't know, where they don't know something, they skew against the man. And I think they have no grounds to do so based on the evidence. And all of it points to it being skewed against her. One major...
Let me pause here. Okay, no grounds. Again, like, I'm going to be really curious to see this. Because, again, like, I'm not, like, anti... Like, obviously, as a male myself, right, I'm obviously a little concerned about the well-being of men, like, being one myself. But I don't, like, look at that video as, like, oh, clearly this is, like, being skewed. And, like, again, there's some kind of greater conspiracies you can make about it. But on its face, him saying, like, anybody with eyes is going to look at that and be like, there's nothing here. It's like, no, like, to me, any dude with morals you know, who's in a healthy relationship is going to look at the way he's engaging with his wife, and whether, like, again, I don't know their relationship outside of that, but it's like, if I look at that, if that was a video of a friend, I'd be like talking to that friend and be like, dude, you guys are not good. Like that's just not a good way to talk to somebody, or behave with somebody. Like, so it'll be interesting to see them tackle onto that, but him kind of making it like, it's to anybody's eyes, this is obviously all her fault. It's like, no, not at all. Like, I think the most rational people, they'd look at this and be like, this is one of the most unhealthy things I've ever seen in my life.
Point here, because I've gone through a similar thing in my own life,
is
is that I think you may have a problem here that's on a very, very deep level, and divorce is a problematic solution to that problem. My conjecture
a problem is
that
a problem.
Hillary Crowder had serious impediments when she got married. I don't know that, but it seems to be implied when Steven Crowder says we're going to release all the mental health stuff. I think she had a problem with this. I think she got overwhelmed, and it's really, really hard for women. And I think this is a fault in our society, especially traditional women, to admit that they're over their heads. And it's really easy and really tempting for them to just blame the spouse and play the victim. And I don't think we're doing men or women any favors by automatically assuming that the man's to blame. I've encountered, I haven't been on the internet long, but I've encountered so many young men who are saying a relationship with a female, short-term, medium-term, long-term, is a nightmare. And there's becoming an increasing argument, an increasingly rational argument, which I did not think was possible.
I'm sorry, what? Okay, let's continue.
That really, it's not worth it on any level to deal with females, because you're setting yourself up like Steven Crowder got set up here. I don't think Steven Crowder regrets having his children. I don't think Steven Crowder regrets what he got into. But you can see how the argument can be made, and women need to start making the other argument that we will be held accountable. We're not going to do this to men. Maybe that's not what's going on here. I don't have omniscience any more than anyone else, but situations like this do happen. And this was not about going and getting the groceries and how many cars they had. This was a woman leaving her husband and leaving her responsibilities, never to come back, while it looks like groceries.
Okay, that was not the strongest opening. I can't wait.
Well, thank you so much for your
cannot wait to
intro
watch
statement,
this go
Grace
down.
and Ben. So yeah, it looks like our mods are back in the chat there. Sorry, everybody, but I've only got so much access right now to the platform, which is a ton. But we're going to kick it over to the other side here. Who would like to start on your?
Okay, we're going to pause and do it to be continued. We're going to watch a quick video, and I'm going to take a quick 5-second break. We are making some progress on page 73 of my comic, and we're watching some entertaining stuff. If you are watching and you're noticing like some choppiness or lag or anything like that, let me know, because I am noticing my internet's being kind of strange. But yeah, okay, so I'll be right back. We're going to play the trailer for... what will we play the trailer for? Let's play the classic Jacob's Apartment trailer, and then I'll be right back. And we'll continue our commentary and working on this comic.
Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can these things we've seen and walk around breathing I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams.
back, and hopefully the connection issues are over. Let's continue watching this modern day debate with Destiny versus Not So Erudite versus Ben Thorp and Grace Thorp, and hear this this lunatic debate. It should be pretty fun. Again, I'm not a debater. I'm just an artist that watches debates, and I've started doing content commentary. If you're tuning in on occasional videos, just to kind of pass the time whilst working on my graphic novel, Not Death But Love: The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. If you're at all interested in my stuff, I play trailers for graphic novels that I've written and illustrated during my streams. And occasionally we'll play a pretty heavy, crazy game of Risk because I love the game of Risk. So that's my channel. Let's continue the commentary. Also, I take super chats just in case anyone is curious. I think it's in the wee hours of the morning, so I'm doubting I have a lot of viewers. But if you have a comment that you really want me to address while I'm listening to this, feel free to send a super chat. That will guarantee me addressing your comment. In general, I'll address comments as they come anyway. All right, let's continue. We should be continuing. Pressing play.
Side.
Okay, now we get into.
Do you want to go first? Or want me to go first, Kyla?
6 of these. Go ahead and pick.
All right, Destiny's gonna take the floor. Thank you so much for being here, everyone, and floor is all yours, Destiny.
Yeah, sure. So I think that there are kind of like 5 things that I would focus on for why I would call the situation here pretty clearly abusive from Stephen Crowder's perspective. And I think I would have to be presented with an insane amount of contrary evidence to override these 5 points. So the first point is her ability to leave this situation, both the marriage and immediately, like the actual balcony, is insanely compromised. She has a serious health event going on right now, which is being pregnant with twins. And from what we've heard later, Stephen apparently has the ability to completely cut her off financially from her means of existing. So it sounds like she's probably not working right now. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it seems like through the course of this, one reason why I would say this seems abusive from Stephen Crowder's end is he seems completely unwilling to work together to try to figure out a compromise to the problem. He refuses to try to compromise on the car thing. When she wants to take the car, he doesn't let her. When she offers to call a friend, he tells her instead that she needs to call an Uber. It seems like he doesn't have any desire here to actually work together with her to figure out a fix to the problem. For the third part, I feel like his tone is needlessly derisive, contemptuous, and insanely aggressive, with multiple statements like, you give up so easily, you have no respect, the only way out of this is discipline and respect, I don't love you, I've never received love from you, become a wife worthy. These aren't statements that you make to somebody that you love, that you're trying to work out a problem with. These are statements you make when you're trying to tear somebody down and attack them and leave them psychologically weak and vulnerable for you to exploit or manipulate. These are not things that you say to a wife that you love, who you genuinely hope or sincerely wish to work out any of your problems with. The fourth thing is, feels like in this fight, something you commonly see in abusive situations, is he's not really trying to figure out how to solve the problem, but instead, sometimes he even seems spiteful or like he's wanting to get even with her. When he points out...
Okay, let's pause for like 2 seconds. He has made so many good points. But one of the things that really struck me when I first saw this video kind of floating around was basically like the not letting the... Okay. This Crowder guy is like a millionaire, like a multi-millionaire. Like, I think he just signed a deal for like, I don't know. I don't really follow him too much, but I think he signed a deal recently for like millions. And I'm not talking like, I think hundreds of millions of dollars for his content. And so like, this is not like a poor family that's like sharing one car. This is a very wealthy person who at like the blink of an eye could buy a car. Like he could buy a car and it would be as much of a hit to his finances as me buying like a hamburger. And so it's like the idea that his argument for her sticking around is because she'll be taking their only car raises a lot of really weird questions. Like, one, I'm assuming, even looking at that house, I think they're at a really fancy house, if not a mansion, right? So they probably have staff at that house. Like, you know, he's a guy with a level of wealth where I'm guessing they're not just like, I don't know, using only one car. If they are only using one car, that's a really questionable thing. Like, why don't they both have cars? It's really strange. And then similarly, like even the concerns that were brought up by the guy at the beginning about like, well, this guy, he's going to go through elective surgery and she's going to be out of the picture. It's like, yeah, but I mean, this guy's so wealthy, he could literally pay an assistant to like help him. Like it's a very strange scenario where, you know, again, a lot of these arguments kind of make sense if you're assuming that this person's not like, you know, loaded like to where they have, you know, $500 million. If you're talking to like somebody who's a half a billionaire, they're almost, you know, they're getting up there. And they're arguing with their wife over the use of a single car. And I get the argument that like, yeah, the argument, it's kind of like the old seated argument of like, and actually this is a really good tip for writers. Like, you know, when I'm writing comics and stuff, quite often it's the subtext that matters in a scene. So like, you know, if you want to show like a tumultuous marriage or something like that, quite often it's going to be an argument about dishes. And the argument's never about the dishes. It's always about something a little bit deeper than the dishes. That's a good thing to remember about like human behavior when you're writing. But even considering that, like maybe it's not really about the car, it's about the support or about the idea of it or about an ongoing conflict or something like that. Him highlighting that, you know, the video shows a clear intention to not allow a wife to leave, which is a problem. And a clear intention to control transport. Like those are both really bad signs, especially if you're like a billionaire. Like I'm, you know, my wife and I are like lower middle class, so we share a car. So I gotta understand like car conflicts being kind of an issue. But like if you're a multi-billionaire and you could literally buy a car like over the phone and have it delivered to you in a minute, or get the like super nice Uber, like I don't know. Anyhow. Let's continue. But yeah, good points by Destiny so far.
Out that he is going to be locked at home away from the car, rather than expressing that as an actual interest and saying like, hey, I'd like to be able to do something. I'd like to be able to go to the gym. Like maybe we can work out a different plan for the schedule. He says, feeling some constraints. And then he starts to list the things he can't do. It feels like he's more interested in kind of like throwing jabs and getting even than actually figuring out a solution to their problems. And then for the fifth thing, the fact that when she tries to leave after saying multiple times that she wants to take space, she literally says, I need space. She's unable to leave. Even when she gets up to leave, he gets up, chases her inside the house, gives her the leash and says, walk the dog, put on some gloves and walk the dog.
All right, we're going to kick it over to Not So Irritate. Thank you so much for your opening statement there, Destiny. And just want to remind everybody in a live chat that all of our guests are linked in the description. So if you like what you're hearing from any of our speakers, you can check them out.
And I'll let you guys know this is modern day
debate. So Irritate, I think you have still 9 minutes on the clock. So floor is all yours.
Great. I probably won't use that entire amount. Basically, what I'd say here is we saw a 3-minute video of an interaction where clearly unhealthy things are happening, right? I think if you take the video just at face value, Stephen looks like a giant raging POS. He looks like an awful partner. He's not supportive. He's uncompromising, very, very controlling, says some pretty nasty things. Doesn't look good for Stephen. The issue that we have to like remind ourselves in the context of this conversation is the reality that we're seeing a 3-minute video, which means taking a really, really strong opinion one direction or the other on like he is clearly an abuser and always has been in their relationship, or he clearly is not an abuser and never has been, is to me just kind of insane. They have a 9-year marriage. We're seeing 3 minutes of it, right? All of the outside context that's going on around this video. For example, is this interaction the worst interaction that they've ever had? Is this actually one of the best interactions they've ever had? Would completely skew how abusive or not abusive we find the individuals. I think a lot of times when we see like really toxic interactions, which Stephen did a good job of outlining, many of Crowder's toxic interactions with his wife, we immediately want to jump to like using the abuse word. And there are abusive behaviors within this. The issue is that that's not enough to establish abusive pattern. It's also not enough though to just say it's clearly not abusive. I think that that's just a pretty extreme claim. And I think we just need a lot more evidence to really, really clearly make one decision or the other about like the dynamic of their entire relationship.
That's reasonable.
Thank you, everybody, for those opening statements. We can kick it up into open discussion. I do know that there's a couple other screen shares that we wanted to get to, so we'll get to those as they come along. Just remind everybody in the live chat, we are doing a Q&A at the end of all of this, so if you have a question for any of our speakers related to the subject, not attacks against our speakers, they're here on their own time. We want to respect them. If you got questions for them, please fire it in the live chat for super chats, and we'll read them at the end. All right, so open discussion. We'll kick it over to the yes side to kick off our open discussion. Thanks, guys.
We're the
well,
yes
can I-
side. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I start this just by saying, so the opposition seems to be saying, look, we can't say that he is an abuser, but we can say this displays abusive behavior. That was Aridad's point, and then Stephen followed it up by like listing what the toxic behaviors were that he saw. Okay, he said she was unable to leave the situation, both the marriage, and she was immediately unable to leave the situation. That's not true. He lets her go. He lets her take the car. He doesn't physically threaten her at all. The cutting off of her access to finances was an allegation made by her family in a statement that was full of lies, and she was completely legally free to leave the marriage. So to say like that it's toxic behavior in the sense that it's controlling, that's not true. That's just flatly not true. The first example you gave was like that he does not control her. She is free to leave both the marriage and immediately that situation.
Okay, yeah. So on this first point, I think we have to have a bit more of a sophisticated understanding of what it means to control somebody and to control space. There's a difference between saying like a person physically is not capable of leaving an area because the other person is going to fight them to the death on it versus trying to impose some level of physical intimidation to manipulate the person from leaving the area. I would say that when she's clearly uncomfortable, she clearly says she needs to get space and she's trying multiple times to get space. For her to get up and go to the door and for Stephen Crowder to get up and chase her is him trying to physically impose himself on her to keep her from leaving. Now, whether she's ultimately allowed to leave, I don't know how long after this she did leave. I don't know if any of us know the answer to that. I would say that that is like a hallmark of an abusive behavior. Is when a partner clearly wants to put space between you and them, and you physically impose yourself to make them unable to do so.
When did he physically impose himself to keep her from being able to leave? He never did.
When she got up to leave.
Yeah, he stands in the doorway and kind of like gets in her face. So yeah, that was a little physically imposing. But again, we'll kind of see where Destiny takes this. Real quick, I'm going to play one more trailer because we finished a panel. And then we will blast through these last two panels. So let's go ahead and play the Christmas trailer for Two Stories. All right, let's continue watching this. Is Stephen Crowder innocent? Destiny and Not So Erudite versus Grace Thorp and Ben Thorp, who I believe are a father-daughter duo. Okay, let's continue.
Leave, he gets up to chase her and hands her the leash and tells her to walk the dog.
But he doesn't
It's not
stop her
preventing
from
her.
going anywhere. She walked right by him several times and right out
She
the
didn't.
door
She came
and right
she
out of his
came-
life.
After he handed her the leash, she came back to the balcony to walk the dog.
So she walked the dog. She didn't walk the dog. She left. They had a discussion
By her own
in the kitchen
admission,
and she
said
left.
she fled.
Nobody,
And she
nobody's
never
saying
came
that
back.
nobody's saying that she walked the dog. What we're saying is that every time that she physically moved around, he would get up and essentially insert himself physically in spaces as she was trying to.
Okay,
leave.
but you're inaccurate. He did not physically prevent her from anything. You could say he psychologically did.
Can we watch? Can we replay the video? Just the ending part, the last like 20 seconds. We can watch it.
I know what you're
We
talking
sure
about.
can.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, and
This
while you get
this
that up,
Substack
just-
page sucks so much.
just going to remind everybody that we are going to be uploading these to our podcasts within 24 hours of having these discussions. So definitely check us out on your favorite podcast forums. We're going to review the video again. So yeah, if you want to keep your screen share up and carry on.
Okay, so at the end,
Let's
here-
establish a couple things before we watch this. Do we all agree
Okay.
that
Sure.
she wants to leave the house at this point? Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
We agree that she
Yep.
doesn't want to walk the dog, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Steven Crowder doesn't
Nor
want her
give
to
the dog his medication.
Sure. And Steven Crowder doesn't want her to leave the house, correct?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Steven Crowder does want her to leave, does want her to walk the dog and give her the medication, right? These are our two conflicts, right? It's her leaving
Yeah,
the house.
I
and
think
walking
we
the dog.
all agree on that.
Okay, cool. All right. So then let's watch what happens here.
Okay.
Day in and day out, worthy of a wife. No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife.
As a
As a
wife.
wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to engage.
She says she doesn't want to
I'll
engage.
get
She says she wants to
okay.
go. Go ahead.
Where
Jody,
is he
keep going.
blocking her, Stephen?
She's
Where
not
is he
yet. We're
physically
still
intimidating
playing.
her?
We're still playing.
Where?
We're still
She's
playing.
free to
Just
leave.
wait.
We're getting there. We've all
They
watched
haven't
the
even
video.
gotten to the point, and he's like, "Where is it? Where is it? You don't even see it."
I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough?
Now he gets up. He tells her to
I'm
put on gloves because he doesn't want her to leave. Okay.
Okay,
But
he's
she's
not
trying to leave.
physically imposing.
I
this.
did. Okay, just keep watching. We're watching till the end. We got 30 seconds left.
Yeah, let's finish
Okay.
it up and then we'll
I'm
talk.
not going
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything.
She fully leaves, and he's still
He
sitting.
follows after her, Stephen.
Correct. He does. That's what I just said. Thank you.
Correct.
So he
Yes.
follows
He's not
after her.
blocking her. You said
Okay.
she
Well, then
was
let's see
not
what
free
happens.
to leave.
Sure. Let's see what happens. So he
okay.
follows her to the door. She's trying to leave. What happens next?
She has the keys in her
You said I
hand.
love you. I'm committed.
Okay. And what happens?
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves.
to.
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are
He
you
brings her
committed enough
back outside.
He brings her back. She freely came back to get the
You-
keys. I guess
you
she
He
did-
didn't.
don't-
want to
we
chase her,
don't-
and now she's picking up the leash to walk the dog.
She walked right by him, picked up the leash, and then she goes back out.
That
So,
didn't
see,
look like
Stephen,
walking
you are
right by
wrong.
him.
There is no physical intimidation here. You could
He
say there's
wa-
psychological, but there is no physical.
He literally
blocking
physically
of her.
moves. I didn't say he blocked her. He brought her
You
back.
said
out here.
physically.
He,
You can say
yeah, he- as in-
psychologically.
no,
not
psychologically.
physically.
Psychologically would be him shouting at her, right? Or verbally. But he gets up to the door to physically impose against her to bring her back out here.
Let's
Right?
finish
So
up-
you can play
where
to
do
the
you-
end.
let's finish up these last
Okay.
20
Sure.
minutes so we can stop the screen share.
Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm going to just.
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dogs?
She walks right by him.
Right by him again.
And now, yeah, she walks right by him. But now, one, we see Steven go inside the house. And apparently, this video says that they get angry and angry. And he says, "I will fuck you up." So him
Okay.
chasing her into the
You
house,
don't
why not
say
sit here and
that.
let her leave? The fact that he followed her
You don't
into the
say
house
that.
shows that he's trying to be physically imposing to get her to do what he wants her to do.
Following someone is physically blocking them from
Oh,
leaving.
yeah, yep.
Yes.
Continuing a conversation is
When a
pursuing
partner
someone
is
to continue
trying-
a conversation with
Yeah,
someone.
when a
Yes.
partner, hold on, this is an
No, it is
opinion. This
not.
is just, sure, this
No.
isn't an opinion. This is a fact. If somebody's trying to leave and you're getting up to follow them to continue a conversation that they're trying to disengage from, yes,
Uh-huh.
that's trying to use a physical imposition to force
That's
them to follow
physical,
through.
Stephen.
Yes, it is.
It's not
If you're
physical.
moving-
He
if
was
you're
not
moving-
physically
No,
blocking
you're
her.
trying to continue the
you're-
conversation. Yes.
If you're moving your material, so say me and Nick were having a fight, and I said, you know what? And actually, I'll give it for you guys. He says, you know what, Kyla, I need some space. And so I don't grab him, but I follow him around the house. I keep trying to pressure him to come back in and do
Right.
things within the household. There's a physical element to that. Because
Oh,
if I
God.
wasn't being physical at all, if I was just being psychological, I would stay in this room. And while Nick walked away, I'd be yelling at him like, you effing whatever, and then maybe threatening him to try
So
to
would it be abusive if you followed him into another room to pursue a conversation? Would that be you physically abusing your husband? Physically preventing
Nobody-
him?
Hold on, no one
Nobody-
said there was
Yes, that's
physical
exactly
abuse.
You
what
said
Steven
physical
said.
prevention.
He said
Physically
he is cutting
preventing
off
you
her
from leaving.
ability to leave.
Okay.
Stop
I'm
lying
sorry.
here.
Okay. I think I've triggered you with the word physical. So we can try to come across
No, don't
some
say
other
that.
word. Well,
You
you're
were
getting
wrong.
triggered.
Don't say I'm triggered.
No. He wasn't.
Sorry. Okay. This is a thing I love that Destiny does. And it's not always fair. But I love that he loves using the word triggered to people on the right, because people on the right love using the word triggered. And so, like, against, anyone on the left slightly, to like where if there's any reaction being like, oh, you're triggered, but because he's aware of this, he uses it very effectively, quite often in debates. And it's always interesting seeing the response, because people on the right are not used to being called triggered, and it's very funny. So let's see how that works. Cheap shot, but a good one.
Verbally abusing her. He wasn't psychologically abusing her. He got up to physically insert himself into an area to control what she was doing. Now,
In
I
order
can't
to have
say,
a conversation, you have to be physically in the area, Steve.
no, you don't. He could have shouted at her from the balcony. He could have let her go.
So it's abuse to pursue someone who's leaving and say, "Hey, can we talk?" That's
That's
physical
right by him.
abuse. Give me a break.
Let's let Grace speak for a minute here. Sorry.
Oh well, I'll let Stephen go. But he was in the doorway. He was physically in the situation. She walked right by him, and then she walked past him. Then she got in her car and left, like they said, like she herself said.
You don't know how long after this did she get into the car and leave?
Well, nobody knows that. But
Then why
that's
do you
what
keep
she
saying
says.
that? I don't know why you keep saying that. Because she
well,
might have
she
left.
did-
She might have left 12 hours later or the next day. Did she even leave this day? I don't know why you
Okay,
keep
but now
saying
it's
that.
just conjecture based on the video.
Whoa. Hold on. It's not conjecture based on the video. You're the one that's bringing up, oh, well, look, she left. That's your conjecture. I'm not saying that at all. What? Yes, that's your conjecture.
Look at the edit. It's her edit, obviously, because she's the only one who would know this. She puts an edit at the end, and it says, after this, she fled the home. When he said, I'm going to fuck you up. And I know exactly what he meant. There has never been any physical violence. He meant, if you do this to me, if you leave and do this to me, I am going to make your life hard.
Sure.
That's what he meant by
okay,
that.
That's fine.
But that's her edit.
Hold on.
Steven,
That's
her
fine.
edit.
That's fine. But you guys saying she left immediately after, you don't know that. We're just talking about what's in the video.
It says right there. Go back. We're
So,
going to do this.
okay, hold on.
It says she fled the
if I could
home
bridge.
after he said that.
Let's
bridge.
let Erdate in here, okay?
All Stephen is trying to point out is that we don't know the time from when the video ends to when she physically exits the house and gets in the vehicle. There's a lot of conjecture required to assume when she leaves. So you guys are saying she just left immediately, but it sounds like what happened is that she went inside and then she felt threatened, if we take the text at face value, and then she ran away from him while he was chasing her, right? So like we don't fully know the details of how she left is all he's trying to point out. Whereas you guys were saying she's leaving right there. See, she wasn't physically intimidated. We don't know how soon after that video ending to the point of when she actually exited the house.
It was clearly within the same interaction, though. Whether it was
You don't know that.
We don't. That's not clear.
You have no
That's
idea.
not clear.
She might have left 10 hours later.
That in the video. Are we on the same planet?
They got angrier
Where?
and angrier. Then
Show me. Wait, okay.
Said,
Okay,
show
hold on.
him. Show him.
Yes, both. We're gonna. Yeah, tell me where it says she left immediately after.
Too few frames. She says it.
Let's bring up the screen share again. We'll try
Alright,
to
give me 1
keep
second.
everybody. If everybody could prevent themselves just for a few minutes from injecting, and we'll really pay attention to what's happening in the video. I know there was a lot of commentary going on the last time we watched it, so let's just see if we can focus on what you guys are highlighting there. So
Okay,
whenever
I'll
you're
just
ready
play
with
the last
screen
couple
share.
seconds.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you. And the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it. You go, no, but I love you more than life itself. Okay, put on some gloves.
Sorry.
No, but I love you more than life.
I love you.
Just go to the last like 5 seconds. Yeah.
I need to
Walk the dog. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm good.
Walk the dog. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication as well? No, you take that.
Okay, so just to check that we're on the same page, can we all agree that at some point Hillary leaves the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the
and we
end of the conversation.
Okay. We don't know specifically when she left the house, that we don't know
Yes,
like,
we
the time
do.
or anything.
After he, by his own admission, screams, "I will fuck you up," at his pregnant wife Hillary, who then flees their home. You're telling me this could be days later?
It might. I'm just saying it might be later
That's
than
ridiculous
If you want, we can say that. Sure. If you want, we can say that she leaves the house within 30 minutes. If you really want that, it still doesn't.
I'm just saying this is all part of one interaction.
Sure.
And the end of it,
Sure.
she left. That's
Sure.
obviously true,
Sure.
and you're
Okay,
denying
sure.
it.
If you want that, that's fine. But it still doesn't change any. Okay.
It's true.
We don't know the length. All
I need
he's
to
saying
hold
is
on.
we don't know the
Moderator, I
length.
have to be able to finish a thought without him interjecting. Okay.
Just thought there,
Okay.
everybody, if we can.
If you want, we can say that he left or that she left 30 minutes later. That's fine. We can grant that, but it still doesn't change anything that I said before. You trying to physically impose yourself to keep somebody from leaving and then being able to leave doesn't mean you didn't try to do that.
Yes, it does. He did not physically impose himself to keep her from leaving. He did not block the doorway. He was sitting for most of it. She had the keys in her hand. He did not
in the doorway,
physically prevent
kinda
her
looming
from leaving. Now,
over
you
her.
can
That is
say
pretty dark.
psychologically he was doing that. That's fine. But physically, no. And we know that even her propaganda denied that there was ever any physical
Propagandist.
abuse.
Okay. Have you guys ever worked with like cattle or animals or anything like that? Ever
Good
watched
point.
cattle
No.
dogs work? Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about vaguely.
So you know how they'll push cows along almost exclusively without touching them, right? They'll just get like big and kind of put their body pressure in different locations.
Yes.
Yes.
So are you saying that cowboys are psychologically coercing cows to move, or do you think they're using their physical bodies as like kind of like physically coercing cows to move in different directions? They're using their presence, their size, maybe the loudness of their body. Would you agree to that? Can we
Yes,
call
of
that
course.
physical? Can we call that physical coercion?
Yes, with the threat
Okay.
of violence. With
Great,
the
so
threat of
that's-
violence, and that's how those cows learn to move, because they are bitten by those dogs.
Sure. So that's what we're talking about is obviously Stephen isn't biting them, Stephen being Crowder. But what we're talking about is when he's getting up and he's moving into her space and he's a larger physical being, even though he's not physically touching them, there is an element of physical coercion and pressure there.
No, there is not. I know what I would do if I wanted to block her. I'd stand in the doorway.
Right. He lets her walk right past him, like twice.
In the
He
doorway.
gets up and follows her into the kitchen. She is
Standing
the
in there.
alpha in that position, that situation.
She's the alpha.
She
Well,
is
okay.
exhibiting power by taking the keys and moving in the direction of the
Yeah.
exit of the house, obviously.
And
Okay.
he's
When you
following her.
Leaving is
when you
alpha?
are trying to placate somebody who is clearly the aggressor and you're trying to create space, you're saying, I love you, I just want to leave, I need space, and you're withdrawing into the home and somebody else is pursuing you, there is no world in which the person fleeing there is perceived as the alpha. She's
Yes,
clearly trying
she
to
had the
create
power.
space.
She
Let
was
me
saying,
finish my
"I'm outta
sentence. Let me
here."
finish my sentence.
Sure.
She's clearly trying to create space. She's clearly uncomfortable with the situation. She's clearly trying to placate him from getting increasingly angry. And as soon as she actually manages to take physical space by going inside the house and not having the continued exchange outside, he physically gets up and follows her to continue the conversation that she clearly doesn't want to take part in.
Yes, right. She doesn't want to take part of it in something. Are you saying that if someone doesn't want to take part in something, there's no such thing as like the silent treatment, that withdrawing can be a power move?
That's
Are
not
you saying that?
physical.
And leaving a situation with no resolution can't be an aggressive move?
Are you
Not
saying that it's
aggression.
never an aggressive move to chase and pursue somebody who says they aren't comfortable having a conversation?
Yeah, chasing someone with like a gun, yes.
So if you're not chasing them
Pursuing
with a gun,
someone,
so if
he's
you're
the
not
one who
pursuing with
wants
a
to
weapon-
continue to engage.
Yes, but she doesn't want to.
He's not threatening violence. He's applying pressure to her with his physical presence to convince her and coerce her to stay rather than respecting her wishes, right? He's not grabbing her because I'm going to guess that he probably doesn't physically abuse her, right? But he is using his physical pressure to impose. Yes, getting in somebody's physical space, even if you let them move past you, is physical pressure. It is physical coercion.
It's psychological pressure. He's using his tone of voice. I'll admit that. The
Does she
idea
have a
that
right-
he blocked her and that she wasn't the aggressor here is ridiculous.
Does she have a
Ridiculous.
right to not carry on that conversation?
Good question.
Legally, does she have a right to?
No, morally. Does she have a right to step away from that conversation if she feels like it's too heated?
There are situations in which someone needs to resolve a situation. Yes,
Does
there
it-
are
did it
some
feel
times
like
when
there was
someone
something
doesn't
there?
have a moral right.
Does it feel like in that case that there was something that required an immediate resolution? Or could this conversation have been put
Yeah,
off
it
for
was
a-
right. And I'll tell you something else about that little video. That is,
Wait,
I'm not
wait,
saying.
why are we pivoting? I'm asking
Good.
a very simple
Pause a
question. Does
moment.
she have the right to walk away from that conversation? Say, I'm not comfortable continuing this conversation right now. I want to take space. Does she have the right to do that?
Did she have a right to walk away from their marriage
We're not
forever
talking about
and
walking
then
away from
attack
the
him
marriage.
from,
Space.
from
It's a
afar?
You're
conversation.
pivoting. You're
She
pivoting.
did not have that right.
She did. So you don't think she had a right to walk away from that conversation?
Not, temporarily could be understandable, but she should have come back, and there's no evidence that she
We
did.
didn't have
And
any
she's been
evidence.
attacking him from afar ever
you-
since then.
You try to make it sound like she just wants a little bit of space. She says, I need space, I need time, I'll be back when I'm back. Does somebody have a right when you're married to them to just say, I'll be back when I'm back, I'm taking space? No, that's why it was unresolved. That's why he's saying, well, we at least have to work something out here. She does not have the right to do that.
Depending on the severity of the fight, you absolutely
Yeah.
always have the right to take space. Of course.
No, you do not. There are situations in which you have to you have to resolve something. I'm not sure in that situation, but I'll tell you what else this looks like. It looks like the perfect setup. She played to that camera, and she used things that will look a certain way in court and in the public eye, and you could tell he's totally confused by what she's doing. I think this was a planned thing. I can't prove that, but it looks a lot like it. She's
Can I just go
triggering
back
him
to?
right to the camera.
Okay, I'm not going to go there with you yet. Can we just go back to, does she have the right? So you guys agree that if she needed like a 2-hour timeout, that would be okay. You guys agree to that?
Yeah, you could take some space. Yeah.
But if she
not if
say-
you've been doing this for 9 years. No.
But you don't know if she has been. You don't have that
know.
context.
Well, you were saying, is this an absolute rule? And my answer is no. It depends on the context.
I'm saying that in general, there are circumstances where maybe not, but I would generally side with somebody saying, I want to take space. That's totally fine.
Right. Do you guys think it's fair that when you're taking space, especially in a heated argument, you might not give an exact time of when you'll be back? You might just say, I'll be back when I'm back. And that could mean 2 weeks, but it could also reasonably mean 2 hours, 4 hours. Would you guys agree to that? Wait, hold on. I just need you to answer that. Would you guys agree?
So one thing I think that that Destiny and Kyla are pretty good at is holding people to kind of like not pivot. And I think that's really hard to do, honestly. There's people who are really sly with that. But getting somebody to kind of stay on point is a really hard thing when you're having a disagreement or a discussion. And so being able to be like apt enough and quick enough to catch it and go, no, look, like we're not moving forward. Let's address the thing you're trying to kind of change the topic on. I think that's a very effective. That's one of the things that Destiny is very effective at, is like being really quick to catch that, try to bring the conversation back on the rails. So if one were to like be going into a conversation with somebody like Destiny, understand like the tactic of like pivoting or trying to do a quick topic change is going to be pretty tough. You have to be a lot craftier about it, or a lot more aggressive about it, and just kind of not stick to the topic, or just actually have your topics so down that you don't have to pivot, that you can address each point. Because if you make a point with somebody like, particularly like Destiny, and then try to kind of pivot away from it without addressing it, you're going to get pinned to the wall. And that's just, I mean, that's honestly, it's not just Destiny, like any decent debater, but I think Destiny in particular has a real strength in kind of controlling the conversation, and also not allowing people to back out of a point, which I think a lot of people, when they think they're debating, really get comfortable with just kind of pivoting from topic to topic without actually addressing anything. It's, Gishgalloping or whatever. And I think that's pretty prominent in certain circles. And so it's like, it's interesting to see somebody who's used to being able to get away with that get held to the fire on it. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. And just so you guys know, the plan here is, let's finish up this panel. After this panel, we'll probably play a trailer again, and then we'll get back into listening to the debate while we finish the last panel, and perhaps we'll close out the night with a quick game of Risk. So that is what's on the agenda. Okay, let's continue.
That her in a heated moment saying, I'll be back when I'm back, doesn't necessarily imply that she's
2 weeks
gone.
would
First
be
of all, she's
unbelievable
not
if he's
heated.
coming.
She's
if he's
not
going
heated.
through surgery and 4 days. That's
Okay.
an unbelievable insult to him.
I'm going to ask again. Do you guys think we can quibble about whether she's heated or not after? If somebody is heated, it's reasonable for them to just say, I'll be back when I'm back and not give a firm deadline. Is that
No,
reasonable?
I do not. I think that's
No,
that
you
could
said
it could
12.
be
You
abusive.
said if it's
It could
2
easily
weeks.
be
No,
abusive.
that's not reasonable.
Okay, so it's never reasonable
It's
to
a
just
power
say,
move. It's
I'll
a
be
power
back when
move.
I'm back.
No, I don't think that's reasonable to do to your husband for 9 years who's going in for surgery and who has an extremely stressful job. I do not think that's reasonable.
So
No.
you are obligated at all points in time to
No,
be
you're
there.
changing it. You guys are changing it. You're sneaky.
No, hold
You're
on.
being
Grace
sneaky
just said
here.
that you're not. Hold on. There's nothing sneaky. All we're
Yeah, it
trying
was.
to do is figure out if you have a right to take space when you are uncomfortable in a situation. And it sounds like both of you
course
guys
you
are.
do.
very-
I
Of course
think
you do.
Grace misspoke, and she's you because you guys are playing this game
Not
because
if you
you're more
said not-
sophisticated. So you at first said, "Is it always right to do that?" And we said no.
Is
and
it
then you said,
okay?
"So it's never right to do that." And she said she bit for your little trick.
Well, because
Why don't we
all we
stop
need-
with the bullshit and just say there are times that when yes, and there are times when no.
Cool. That's all we're trying to say. There might
No,
be
it is
times.
not. You're trying to play games. With
Can I finish a
words.
sentence? When you don't let me finish, it's because
Steven,
you
you're
know
not
your
a
point is
victim
weak.
Let's
here.
let Steven talk.
I didn't say I
please.
was a victim, but I'm saying that when you don't let me
Yes, you
finish,
did.
it's because you know you have a weak argument, right? Which is fine. I understand.
Wrong. That's
Your
not
argument is the
true.
same. Yes, it is. So we're just trying to say that it is permissible, at least sometimes, that if you are feeling stressed, if you feel like you're emotionally compromised, to want to take space in an argument. Is it
Of course.
okay every single time? No. But if it's okay at least some of the time, you don't have the context here to say whether she's in the right or the wrong. So I would probably side. I think it's fair to side with the person that wants to take a little bit of space. That's
Why
totally
do we
fine.
have to say if we don't know that we have to side with one side or the other? Can't we debate that? That's what this debate about. I'm not
Because-
saying I know everything about it.
Because Stephen is the one that is aggressing here. So you would probably
No.
hire.
No.
Let me finish a sentence. Stephen is the one aggressing here. So similar to how an affirmative defense would work in court, where if you kill somebody and you say it was self-defense, you're already admitting a wrong. That like, okay, well, I'm killing somebody, but I had a really good reason for doing it. Stephen is the one that's pursuing somebody that said they need space. Generally,
the one
when
with the
somebody
keys.
says they need
Let's let him
space, I'm
finish.
just going to keep talking until I finish. Generally, when somebody says they need space, you ought to respect that. Unless you have a higher threshold of evidence saying, no, when they're trying to say they need space here, it's an abusive strategy. And I would actually go one step further. If they are saying I need space and they're using that as an abusive strategy, to properly resolve that, you would either have a third party or a therapist present to do so. You would never try to resolve it on your own.
She's the aggressor. She's making the decisions. She takes the keys and she says, I'm leaving. That's her aggressive position. He's
How-
the one saying, please don't, please stay.
How is you
She's
saying
the one making the
I'm
decisions.
Yeah, but making a decision isn't always aggressing, right? Me making a decision isn't the same thing as aggressing
She's-
on somebody.
Well,
Me
it depends-
saying I'm taking space isn't aggressing. It's a
Yes, it is.
boundary, and it's inherently a de-escalation. Taking space, and
No,
anyone
not
who's gone to
Let's let her finish
marriage
up.
therapy 101 knows that taking space is the most important way to de-escalate conversations. Her getting space is a de-escalation necessarily.
No, it is not. It can be an escalation. Are you too familiar with what's called the silent treatment that people
It's not
do
an aggression.
Yep.
to others? Is that a
Yeah.
form of aggression? Maybe we're just misusing term. We're using that is an aggressive tactic.
It's not aggressive, it's avoidant, which is generally thought
Okay,
of as
well,
the opposite
whatever.
of aggression.
It's
Now, is it could it be
obnoxious.
could it be yeah, should it be obnoxious? Sure. Could it be
Okay, fine.
abusive even? Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right.
But
Let's use
aggressive
abusive.
or
Let's use
aggression?
abusive.
Sure. We can say she might be being abusive as well, but I need more context to know that. However,
Okay,
I know that it
here's
is
a
almost
piece of context. Here's a piece of context. If I can talk for a little bit, I
Yeah.
know you're offended by that.
We'll let you
But
speak for a bit here. That's fine.
He said to her, Hillary, you always just give up. Now, that wasn't just right then. You can tell there's been a massive history of her giving up, and she is an avoidant personality. If you wouldn't want to call that aggression, I have no problem with that. She has a clear tendency to avoid conflict and to give up. And
So-
that can be a problematic personality type.
I'll fully grant you that being highly avoidant can be abusive, right? This is what neglect is, right? Neglect is like maximal levels of avoidance, but neglect is not aggression. And you guys were saying that Hillary was aggressing first. Saying something is maybe done something that's toxic in a dynamic is not the same thing as aggressing.
Oh,
in the case
whatever.
of her, well, it really matters in this case because we are saying
abusive.
what we're
Let's let her
saying
finish up,
in
and then
this
we'll kick it
case.
back over to you.
Great. Stephen is aggressing. Stephen Crowder is aggressing first. And she is trying to get space. If we're taking the video with the level of nuance that Steve and I are trying to take the video.
Men tend to be more aggressive. Women tend to be more avoidant. Yeah, okay, but both can be obnoxious in context. Is
No,
that correct?
the argument isn't whether who's being obnoxious or not. I don't know why we're.
Well, what are we asking? Is Steven Crowder innocent of what?
We're not even asking if he's innocent. We're just
Of
asking
being
if
a
he's
man.
exhibiting
That's
abusive
what we're
behavior.
actually doing. Is he innocent
Okay.
of being a man? Is he guilty of
Oh,
being a man?
wow.
And the answer is yes. He's
Big
guilty of
jump.
being a man. So am I. You're trying to get out of it, Steven, but I'm afraid you're going to get caught too. It's not a crime to be a man. It's not a crime to be bigger than a
It's
woman.
not. It's also
not
not
a crime to raise your voice.
It's not a
crime to
No,
be.
no one said any of these things were crimes. It's not even a crime to be abusive.
That
Literally
is
Or
no
leave
one
your
even-
house. Or leave your house and never come
Yeah,
back. to
it's
your
also not a
spouse.
crime. Yeah, it's not a crime to leave your spouse. It's not a crime to take the car and fucking drive away. It's
Or to
also
not
not a
walk
crime
the
to
dog.
say
a woman.
face-
It's not a crime to be a woman, but
let's
it's
let
not a
Grace in
crime
here,
to be a
Phil.
man.
This is brave. Very brave takes here.
Yeah,
It is not-
nobody.
it
I
is
don't
not a
think
crime to
anybody's
be a
saying
man or a woman.
otherwise.
Yeah,
True.
you are. You're implying. You're implying that no matter what the situation, I'm just saying you two both do leave some room for nuance, and you're saying okay, but you generally skew way in the favor of this woman, and I don't see any evidence why you would do that. I admit that we're on both sides conjecturing, but you're like, we shouldn't make judgments about this. But let me go ahead and call him a piece of shit. I just saw your video.
Nobody has said we
Kyla.
shouldn't make. Nobody's saying we shouldn't make any judgments about it. You probably just didn't. Like,
Well, why do
shouldn't-
you make them instinctively with no
Okay,
evidence?
I'm just going to keep talking.
Let's
until I
let him
finish my
finish
point.
up his point
Nobody
there.
is saying that we shouldn't make any judgments whatsoever. There are probably some judgments that we can make. It looks like, for instance, they've been to therapy. It looks like, for instance, they've been fighting for a long time. It looks like, for instance, they've got disagreements over the fucking car. We can make some statements about what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that. The only statement that I think me and Erudite, or at the very least I'm opposed to, is absolutely saying in the totality of the relationship, Steven Crowder is the bad guy, Hillary Crowder is the good guy, or vice versa. That's it. In this one situation, Steven Crowder is clearly exhibiting abusive behavior. Hillary Crowder might be exhibiting abusive behavior,
kick it
but we
over
need
to
more
Grace.
context to say if she is. We don't really need much more context to say if Steven is. Again, it's almost never okay to pursue.
You know what? I feel like Destiny's making a really good point here, which is like it's not that it couldn't be that there's more context that kind of sheds light on some other behaviors, but the video as is does not make Steven Crowder look good. Like he regardless of context, there's not really a lot of context that would justify the behavior in that video. And I think that kind of makes sense. Speaking of, we are going to pause and we are going to watch another trailer. We have one panel left to go. I'll move this up too so you can kind of see the panel we just finished. But we have one panel left to go, and then we'll continue watching this debate. I think in this case, we'll put up the trailer. Let's see. I think this is Phillips, so we'll see if this is Phillips. I think this is Philip Chandler's trailer, which will be appropriate because Philip's going to have Jim Lujan on his channel later today. So let's play it.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go by Jacob's Apartment.
All right, we're back. It's the wee hours of the morning, and we are commenting on the modern day debate: is Steven Crowder innocent, Destiny and not so erudite versus Grace Thorp and Ben Thorp? I'm not sure how much we'll get into before I finish the panel, and then when I finish the last panel on this page, you are free to peruse the rest of this debate. On modern day debate, and also I should be playing probably a quick game of Risk to kind of close out the night and reward myself for finishing the page. So let's I guess before kind of pre-stating that, let's get it done. And see where we go. Okay, here we go.
Somebody that's saying they're trying to take space in an argument. That is arguably an abusive behavior, especially if you're doing it by moving your body around to follow them around when they've said they wanted to disengage from an argument.
All right. Well, Stephen, you mentioned two other things that proved that he was displaying toxic, abusive behavior. You said he was completely unwilling to work together with her. When he said, Hillary, come on, let's work this out. Hillary, you give up so easily. And she was the one leaving and not engaging while he was trying to continue the conversation. Secondly, you said his tone was derisive, and the examples you gave for his tone being derisive were, you give up easily, you have no respect, the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said that those are ways of tearing somebody down psychologically. That is clearly not abuse. That is called holding somebody accountable for the promises they made to you, for the standard they agreed to be held to. That's not abuse. That's not misusing the other person.
My door is on. Hold on, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Okay. Sure, I'll toss in. I guess that's a little bit more towards Stephen. But Grace, how do you feel about him saying, I don't love you? Do you think that that's in any ways a reasonable criticism or something that's going to be productive in a conversation with your wife to figure out your problems?
I got it.
I believe what was happening when he said, I don't love you, is she kept saying, I love you. And he was saying, well, you've never shown love to me. And I believe he was frustrated. He said, oh, I don't love you. I do not think that's abusive. I don't think it's intended to tear her down. I think he's saying, let's cut
I just asked
bullshit.
if it's him giving valid criticisms. I didn't ask any of these other things. Is it because you said him saying, you need to be disciplined,
really good
respectable.
point.
These
That's
are
a
all examples
terrible
of him
thing to
just
say to
giving
somebody.
legitimate criticisms to his wife. Is saying, I don't love you, a legitimate criticism to your wife?
Well, I mean, I think you have to view it in the context of what he was saying. Just alone, it seems harsh, but if you see what he said right after it, he said, because you've never shown me love in this relationship, by showing your love instead of just saying you love me. So it's valid within that context.
Wait, wouldn't that imply then that if he doesn't love her, then he's not showing her love either in that? If that's the context of it, wouldn't that necessarily imply that he's basically saying neither of us show each other love ever? Why would he say, I don't love you after complaining about her not showing him love?
Why do you make that leap? He is saying you have never manifested your I love you, I love you, I love you in any actions, or at least to such an extent that he's saying, I ask you to do these minor things and you don't do them. And then you tell me you love me. And he's pointing out that that is abusive. What is wrong with that? He may be,
he's not,
he may be wrong. No, why are you running this debate, Kyla? Why are you in charge? You and Stephen are not in charge of this debate. Ryan is.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Can I respond, Ryan? Or are you done, Ben?
I think
I think he's done.
Okay. So the question is still, I don't love you doesn't seem productive. In fact, it seems evidence of Stephen's point that he's not trying to find compromise. He's not trying to work on things. I don't think saying things like I don't love you is helpful in any way to a conversation.
Okay, can I push back on that?
Sure thing.
Okay.
Let's go.
If you've got two options that you feel like, because this is kind of end game, let's just say that. He's aware this is kind of end game. He's getting the hint that she's pulling something here because he does act very like, what do you mean by that? Okay. So he's saying, now you're saying, is him saying, look, I really want to have this out. I've never seen any love in action from you. And she's taking the keys and leaving. Which of the two of those are engaged? I want an answer to that. Which of those two are going to engage and which one is bolting?
She's leaving the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So is it abusive for him to say like, well, let's have it out?
He doesn't say, let's have it out. He
Well,
says,
that's what he's
I
saying.
don't
He's
love
saying-
you. You're not showing me love. You need to be a better wife.
Well,
do your
couldn't
wife
it be
leave-
that he doesn't love her anymore? Is that okay for him to say if that's honest, the honest
If
truth?
that's true, then doesn't that undermine every single thing you've been saying and that he's the one that's essentially leaving? Doesn't that kind of like coincide with him hiring the divorce lawyer first and everything? If he really truly doesn't love her anymore, and even if he does not love her anymore, then why would she stay and have the conversation? Seems like she should just leave.
Yeah,
but he then
fair point.
explains what the problem is. She doesn't do anything. Right?
Do you think that, here's a question, do you think that it's ever constructive in a fight with a wife or significant other or any family member ever? Do you think it's ever constructive to say, I don't love you?
Yes. If someone is using
that's
the
awful.
I love you thing
That is not
in this manipulative
no.
way. Does a man have to be perfect? He explained
That
it
was a
right after
big
that.
bullet.
Maybe
Oh,
yes.
right.
Well, like Okay,
Nobody
so
says he has to be
he says,
perfect.
she says, he's basically saying to her, I fucking hate this tactic that you do of saying, I love you, I love you. It's bullshit because love manifests itself in action. I believe that's true. Do you guys believe that's true? That saying I love you and not doing anything or not showing that love in whatever ways are normal to show that. It's like coming to your boss and saying, I love this job, and then you don't do anything. Can your boss say, I think you suck as an employee at some point?
So I think you hit I think this is what you said at the beginning. It's never just about the groceries. It's not really about walking the dog, right? He's like fixating on this, but I don't actually know if this is a valuable critique. If Steven Crowder here is actually feeling like the problem is that they don't love on each other, that he isn't shown enough love, I don't think that any of the way that he's approaching this conversation is in any way conductive to this conversation going well. Would you agree, Ben, that in your worldview, that the man's responsibility is that if he's confronting her, it's the man's responsibility to lead the conversation? Would you agree with that?
No, I don't think. I think marriage is a partnership, and I think if you're in a situation, look, this is the thing. If you think it's just about going and getting groceries and how many cars they have, okay, fine. But this is clearly an end game, and that's manifested by the fact that at the end of this conversation, she left him forever and is now attacking him publicly.
Maybe she left because at the end of their last fight, he said, I'm going to fuck you up. And she didn't feel safe in the house.
Yeah, right. Because you buy the propaganda. I'm
just going by what's reported in the.
It's not reported. Why? That's her propaganda. There are only two people that could possibly know what happened in that conversation.
Unless they're lying about the court docs or whatever. Supposedly, Steven Crowder has admitted as much that he did say that I'm going to fuck you up.
Court docs. It's an edit of a video from a Nest from a Nest camera.
My understanding is that the writer of that article said that the writer of the article, or whatever, said that both of them agreed that he had made that statement. So it sounds to me, he said that he admitted that statement. So it sounds to me like this is showing up in a court doc somewhere or some police statements or something.
Now you're guessing. You're guessing.
Okay, hold on. Do you acknowledge either he is reporting this somewhere or he totally made it up?
She is reporting it, obviously.
Okay,
she is reporting it.
Okay, so I'm assuming they're not lying about what's in like a court doc or a police report. Because that's
why would there be a police report if you have an argument with someone?
There could be a police report for all sorts of reasons. But it says in the article.
No, there can't be one.
So it says in the article, now it could be that the article is just lying, but in the article, they explicitly state that Steven Crowder does not deny that he said he would fuck her up.
Yeah, I don't deny that either, but I'm saying you take
if you don't deny that, why are you arguing me about this?
Out of context, and you can say to someone, I'm going to fuck you up if you do this to me. And you can mean, I am going to go to war with you legally, and I'm going to try to get custody of our kids or something like that.
And somebody might feel uncomfortable after you say that and want to leave the house.
Yeah, and someone also could be twisting that, and that's obviously what's going on here, to make it look like he threatened her violently. Yes, it is. All right, let's talk about that article.
It is.
We know who wrote that article. This guy is an absolute scumbag who takes advantage of women in difficult situations. Some rich woman gave him $200,000. He had to sue her. It doesn't meet the most minimum journalistic standards. This is obviously a hit piece from beginning to end. It's propaganda. No one would quote her family journalistically. There's no such thing as her family. Only mafia people use that kind of language. It's poorly written. It's clearly propaganda for her narrative.
How is her family not an acceptable quote? What do you mean?
Hold on.
What?
This is another thing Destiny is really good at. If you try to steamroll just a bunch of little talking points, like he will walk you through each one. I feel like he was trying to kind of steamroll a lot of stuff in there. So we'll watch it all get dissected.
But what does her family say? What does her family mean?
My guess is it's probably going to be things like mother and father or whatever family member she's confiding in about the divorce.
So you're going to quote something and you don't even say who it's from, just as her family.
Well, there's allegations.
A family can be reported. Okay, so now you're saying this is great journalism. The guy is a total scumbag.
Nobody.
I never said it was. Nobody here
said that. But you're taking what is being said there as true.
Here's the only statement I'm taking as being true. Now you can say that this was totally fabricated. That is within your right. If you want to claim that, that's fine.
No, I
but
think
according to the article, Steven
Yeah.
Crowder himself has agreed that he told his wife, I will fuck you up. And you keep dancing this awkward line where you're trying to say, well, there's no proof that he said it, but then you're also justifying it at the same time, saying, oh, well, he probably said it, but when he said it, he just meant that he's going to like take her to court if she tries to fuck with him or whatever. Right? So I don't know which one, which side do you want to do? You want to do that he didn't say it at all and we're just not going to believe the article, which is fine. Or do you want to take that, well, he maybe said it, but he's justified if he did? Which argument do you want to take there?
Well, you can take that whole clip and say, okay, do I think that's legit? Is that a legit clip? I do. Someone could say, well, that's all AI, but I think it was her that edited that clip to exactly that way and added the thing at the end.
It's not
It's
addressing
obviously
his question.
someone who's working on her side, because Steven Crowder had said, and I think this was a mistake. He said you can never badmouth your wife in public. So when he's doing the white knight thing and saying, I don't want to bring the family into this. But I think he makes a mistake by doing that. Clearly,
why do you think it's a white thing to not want to attack
code?
So you make this all make sense. You believe that she has like Machiavellian planned this out for the last 2 years, had the fight, saved everything, but she's also so stupid that she would edit a clip that could be used as liable against her of defamation and just lie blatantly on a clip that she knows is going to be used in court. So she's a 9D chess genius Machiavellian superhero who plotted this out, maybe even staged the fight, saved all this, planned these things for 2 years, but also she's too stupid to not realize that if she just blatantly lies in videos and edits, that it won't get caught in court.
No, that's not
She's
libel.
both of these things
let's
at the
kick
same
it over
time.
to Grace.
No, you're
for a
not
little bit.
listening. It's not libel if you edit something in a way that is what's the word? Misleading. And I don't deny that he said those words.
Do you
I'm
think
just
that
saying
would
it was
get
taken totally
used
out of context.
How do you think in court they're going to feel, the judge is going to feel, to see, for example, let's take for granted everything you're saying is true and the wife did all of these things. Do you think that the wife is going to look at this good and be like, oh, so when you say he fucked you up, that didn't happen at all? You just said that publicly to
No, we're not saying that didn't happen, but
You're not even listening.
At the end, okay, we're not saying that didn't happen, but all she includes is that he got angry and angrier. Then he said this. We're not saying he didn't say that. And then she fled the home. That is intended to portray it as he was getting threatening to her and she fled away from him. When in reality, that's what she says about the situation.
So you guys now agree that he did say this. You guys believe that he did said, I'm going to fuck
We
you
never
up.
denied it. If you pay attention, you'll
but if
learn.
somebody's saying they're going to fuck you up, why can't you also say, well, I feel uncomfortable staying in this house?
Okay. Well, if it was said in the context of like, if you leave here and do this to me, I'm going to fuck you up. Okay. We have to ask this question. If a man has never raised his hand, and she admits this, never raised his hand at her physically, and she's pregnant with twins 8 months in, and you see his behavior, he is not in any way impeding her.
Oh, I don't know.
Despite
He's
your
pretty much
lie that he
impeding
is.
her.
You're
That's
telling me
not how you
that
treat a
he's
pregnant
physically
wife.
threatening to assault a woman with twins who is 8 months pregnant. That is
I don't even know who you're arguing against right now. Did
imagine.
anybody here say that? Who said that?
That is the clear implication of taking those words out of context.
Why not just, we're both here. You don't have to ask us about our implications. You just ask us what we mean. I don't know why we're dealing with implications.
Well, that's what it is when you look at something that is edited misleadingly, and
Wait, what
you
is-
two make all sorts of
Just let them
assumptions
finish.
about it based on your
What do you think
like,
is
unhealthy hatred of masculinity.
what do you think is misleadingly edited?
Well, the words "I'll fuck you up" taken out of context are clearly like Stephen, I said to you at the end of our interview, I said, I'm going to fuck you up tomorrow in this interview, correct? Okay. Now, you could say, oh, I'm afraid of Ben Thorp. I'm going to sue him. Oh, I'm a victim of him. But you know that it was in the context of debate, right?
Yeah, but I'm not your two twins, 9-month pregnant wife standing outside a balcony with you. I'd probably feel a lot differently if we were in person. Do you understand that? That a man saying to another man on the internet.
So now you
Hold on,
are
wait,
implying that it was a physical
man,
threat.
No, I'm just saying that a man on the internet saying, I'm going to fuck you up, comes off a lot different than a man saying that in real life, right? It can make somebody feel a lot less comfortable.
Wait, so are you guys saying or not? Okay, it says Stephen got angry and angrier. He said, I'm going to fuck you up. And she fled the home. You're saying that's abusive that he said that. Are you saying that because it was a physical threat, or are you saying it because it was verbal abuse? Which one are you saying?
This is all I'm saying. I'm going to repeat this for the 20 millionth time. All I'm saying is that if you're in a household with somebody, especially your husband, and he says, I'm going to fuck you up for any reason, even if there's no physical threat, you might feel uncomfortable such that you're like, I need to leave this house. I don't feel comfortable here. That it would be totally within your right to say that.
Yeah, this was at the end. This was the end of the end game. And like he's saying like, don't do this. I'm gonna fuck you up. He was threatening her, whatever.
Okay,
with
do you think?
financial or
Let's just
whatever.
ask. Let's try easy yes or no's again. Do you think it's reasonable for somebody to say,
Sorry, that's not.
I don't want to
something-
be in the same house as a husband that's saying they're gonna fuck me up?
Yeah, that's a fair
I
point.
admit that it was over. It was over.
Okay, then what's
I
so bad
admit
about
it.
her leaving the
So they're making a really good point. Like that's a really heavy thing to say. And if you're being metaphorical about it, you better clarify the hell out of that. Because like again, you know, that yeah, you say that to somebody in person, it's usually not meaning like, oh, I will metaphorically take you to court or something. That sounds like a physical threat. Um, literally left in. My computer is doing a pinwheel of death for a second, so and it does appear like I'm getting a lot of lagging. So hopefully this hopefully this is just on my end, but we'll see. We're gonna continue this and we're gonna finish this page, and hopefully this stream is not totally unintelligible. We'll find out.
the house? If you're telling me it was over, why can't you just leave?
Is it reasonable? I just actually want to hear the answer to that. Is it reasonable
Yeah.
for somebody to feel uncomfortable if Nick says I'm going to fuck you up in any way? Do you think it's reasonable for me to be like, that made me a little uncomfortable? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, but you also have to
would it
take-
be
Hold
uncomfortable?
on, just a yes or no. Is it reasonable?
No, I'm not playing your games. Fuck you. I don't play this manipulation games.
Remember that question, just ask it after he rambles because he's gonna say a bunch of random shit now.
You're not in charge of this debate.
Okay, could we maybe try to be a little meta here and maybe just try to assume that when we're asking you questions, we're actually just trying to get to the bottom of what you believe? We're not doing like some
Yeah, but you don't
maniacal
have a right
stuff?
to say, give me a yes or no question. I'm not on a witness
The
stand.
problem is you're not answering at all. You're just like rambling off on some like random shit. Do you have a right to leave your house because you feel uncomfortable because your partner is going to fuck you up? Is that a right?
You
of
have a
consent?
legal right. Yes, you
No
do.
one is asking legally, morally.
You have
But
a
but then
moral
you're
right in every situation. Now you're doing the exact same thing we did before. We established that sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Okay, do you think in this circumstance where a woman is fucking 9 months pregnant with twins, that when her husband says, I'm going to fuck you up, that she probably has a right to say, okay, I feel uncomfortable here. I'm going to leave my house.
Especially
I
after a
think
major
she
fight?
planned this out. Look at the timing of it. Look at the timing of it.
You didn't answer
She
my
had
question.
been for a
You
couple
didn't
of
answer my
years.
question. Just let the record show.
So going back to, do you think that it's reasonable after a big fight with her husband that a pregnant woman feels uncomfortable and wants to leave her house after her husband says, I'm going to fuck you up?
I think it was
Grace?
over at that point. I
It
agree.
That
with
wasn't
that.
that
So
question.
when she
Whether or
left,
not
I
it's
don't think there
over
was
is
any
not the
surprise.
question. No
That's
one's
not the
asking if it was
question.
over.
Let's kick the
Is it
question.
Does she have
reasonable?
does she have the moral right? Yes, of course. She
She
has the
wanted
moral-
him to say that.
She has
so
the
then
right
she
to
could,
leave.
She could do this edit.
Okay,
In
if
my
she has the
opinion.
That
right,
doesn't
my
prove
opinion.
that he's abusive, though. She has the right if she feels like it. Yes, but that doesn't mean she's correct, and that doesn't mean that he's abusive.
True. Okay, that's great. Okay, we're making progress. So if she has a right, an ethical right to leave the house if she wants to, why would somebody else have a right to try to stop her or to tell her she can't?
He doesn't say you can't.
Okay,
leave.
so
He
so
asks
all
her
right.
to-
So let's go. Wait, let's go back to this. What do you do when you get married? You two are married. I thought I was married. What is it that you're saying to that person? Whatever.
If
just
my
whatever,
wife
as long
says,
as
hey,
it's
I'm
convenient.
uncomfortable, I want to take some space, then I'll go, okay, when you're back, we can argue.
Does a marriage have any obligations that come with it?
Of course it does. But
Okay.
none of those obligations are, if you're extremely uncomfortable, you need to sit right here, right now, and finish this fight with me.
Okay, so what if someone has been saying since they were married that they've been disengaging and avoiding and not ever doing their part as they see it, which is something, and then they bolt? Isn't that irresponsible?
Yep. Then you talk to
Sure.
a therapist.
Well, but couldn't it be wrong to blame the spouse if someone has been doing that?
Nope.
It's
Your
not
partner
wrong
can
to
be
blame the spouse.
Your partner, no. If you want to say that Hillary Crowder has been acting improperly and is failing to uphold her obligations as a wife, that could all be totally true. That still doesn't give Stephen Crowder the right to tell her that she's not allowed to withdraw from a situation where she feels uncomfortable.
Well, he's not saying you can't. He's saying you shouldn't.
That
You
he's saying,
shouldn't
don't
give
take the
up so
car.
easily.
Your friends aren't allowed to come and pick you up. Go take an Uber. Don't leave. What do you mean you're leaving? You can't take the car. Just sit here and work with the dogs, do the dog stuff. If you actually loved me, you wouldn't leave. You would just do the dog stuff. So you're right. He's not physically preventing her. He's never explicitly said, you're not allowed to leave this house. You're my female slave. You're right. He never said those things, but he said a whole bunch of other stuff to try to pressure her to not leave.
Right. He's trying to say, you can't keep running away from your problems. Is that abuse? If he's justified, could there be a situation in which someone is justified? If I have 6 kids, if my kids want to avoid their problems and not face them, then I will tell them, no,
Just your
you
kids,
don't have
not
a
your
right to
wife.
just run away and keep saying, I need time, I need to think about things. Right?
That's true, but that's because you're their parent.
Yep.
He's not her parent. That's her
Well,
husband. They're partners.
anybody in any situation, if an employee says, I
No.
need some time because this pressure of I ran a restaurant. If an employee says, I need some time out in the middle of a busy rush, I need to get my head together, you need to say, fuck you, get your ass in here or you're fired. You have a fundamental breakdown.
No.
in a
Yeah.
relationship.
You say, yeah, if you want to leave, go for it, but you're not coming back. That's what you would say. You would never
Fine.
chase an employee and say, sure, but he didn't let her leave. He acted like he could chase the employee down and say, go back on the line, you're cooking until the shift's over. You can't do that.
Stephen, she had the keys in her hand. She walked out the door, never to return. How in God's name did he prevent her from leaving? He was just appealing to her one last time. And she had long since, I believe, made the decision. She was going to set him up in that little backyard, make him look like an asshole, and then bolt just in time to get alimony of a very, very wealthy man. I think she had a problem. That's
if I
my
go up
guess.
to somebody, if I were to go up to my wife and say, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, but I don't actually hit her, is that okay?
If you say, but he didn't say that.
I didn't say he said that. I'm asking if I go to my wife and I say, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, but I don't actually hit her, is that okay?
I think there are, with women, no. But if you say that to a man, I think, and you aren't going to, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I can even work within that framework. Go for it, Eric.
Well, I'm just going to inject here just before we continue.
Well, people get
on.
frustrated.
Yeah, that's a framework I can work with. Okay.
Just before we do
It's
continue
really
on,
my worldview.
I will just let you know we have been going now for the time that we had said at the beginning. So it's up to y'all if you want to keep having the discussion, or we can move into Q&A. It's totally up to you guys if you want to just keep the open discussion flowing.
I would just love to suggest one question that we bat around.
This is really interesting.
And that is, but you guys can choose to not. I know we're the little people.
I don't think you should metaphorically threaten violence. That's just me. I think regardless of how frustrated you are with somebody or anything like that, just metaphorically threatening violence is not the best. All right, let's continue. We're almost done with this.
And that is, can a woman fail, or is it always someone else's fault? And can you give me an example of that?
Hold on. Is this a serious question?
Yeah. Give me an example of where a woman can fail, and we don't blame it on mental illness or anything like that. Where we just say, you have failed, and we can raise our voice. Give me an example.
Can I Ben style you and ask you a different question unrelated to that I think is more interesting?
Sure.
Okay. If we had to describe Steven Crowder's interactions with his wife as one of two things, persuasion, negotiation, or intimidation, which word would you choose?
Negotiation.
Persuasion.
For sure.
Persuasion.
Negotiation? Persuasion?
Yes.
Negotiation?
Hillary,
I don't
the only way out of
Absolutely.
this, the only
I don't
way out
love
of this
you.
is discipline and respect. Hillary, you give up so easily. Hillary, come on.
Does
That's
the
negotiation.
negotiation, hold up. Pro tip, negotiation doesn't mean the only way this can work is if you do what I want. That is not negotiation ever. I will fuck you up. I don't love you is not negotiation at all. There is no
Yes,
wiggle
it
room
is.
there.
You want me to give you an example of that? You want me to give you an example?
I
of
would love to hear an
negotiation?
example of that. Yeah.
I'd love to hear the
Okay,
example.
a business partnership starts going downhill,
Uh-huh.
and you hold your partner accountable, and you say, you better get it together and start working for this business, or I'm going to fuck you up financially.
No, that's not acceptable.
And if it gets to that point where it's deteriorated, it's a good example. Why not?
Because you'd never say that to a business partner. That's insane.
Yes, you absolutely would. You would say, look, you might think you could just wander away from this obligation, but you cannot. Because I've been in business partnerships. They're very dicey because everyone has both partner, it's like a marriage. Both partners have full access. If one of the partners starts accessing, let's say, the funds and is doing that illegally and you're letting it go, you're going to tell them, look, I know what you're doing. I'm documenting. I'm going to fuck you up in court.
If that's negotiation, what does intimidation look like?
Intimidation?
It's a way to get somebody to stop doing something because she starts accusing him of abuse, right? She's
That's not
saying
an
you're
example.
abusive.
I
All
could
right.
give you an example of intimidation. It's like
In
what
the
you did
context
in
of
the
that
debate the
business
other
thing.
day when you accused me of sexual harassment. That's intimidation. That's what you did on that panel because I asked you what your preference was sexually.
Whether
That's
I like the hard
intimidation.
dick inside me. Yes, yes, yeah.
No, I didn't say that to you. I asked you what you preferred, an erection or a soft, right? Okay. And you
Inside
said
me,
that was
yep.
sexual harassment.
I
That's
did.
intimidation, Kyla.
Let's
You
try to
shouldn't
get
do
back
it.
to the topic. Just
Oh,
to
wow.
keep on point.
This
'cause
guy
that's
is
not entirely
a
what we're
piece
here
of
for.
work.
All
Well,
right.
she asked for an example.
That's fine. So if you guys want to keep talking about the subject, that's okay, but we can move into our Q&A if everybody's ready.
Do you think that there are ever situations? I already know the answer to this, so I guess I'm just asking for the audience's sake.
You go
Do
ahead.
you think there are ever situations where a husband and a wife are arguing? The husband says some shit like, "You need discipline. You need respect. I don't love you. This isn't working out. I'm gonna fuck you up if you walk away from this." Do you think there's ever a situation where like 6 months later they're like, "You know what? I'm really glad my husband said that. I needed to hear that. It got me in shape. Like, and our relationship is way better now for that."
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Oh my
Sometimes women, both sides, they need to be like held responsible if they're failing, and it's especially the man's job as the leader, of course.
Sure. So would you guys agree that there are ways that you could give your partner criticisms that are probably going to be more productive or more unproductive?
Definitely.
Right. So say I have an issue with my partner. I could say it like, "Hey, just so you know, like I understand that like there's probably reasons why this is going on, but when you do this thing, it really hurts me and it bothers me and it makes me feel not loved." Or I could say, "I don't love you. And if you want to do these things, if you want to have love, if you want to show me love, you need to do these two things right now." Which
All
do you think is going to be more productive for the goal that I'm trying to achieve, which is feeling loved by my partner?
Depends on the context.
What about
Let's
a
say you have
coach? What about a
children and
coach?
your partner is abusing your children. Are you going to have a nice little conversation or are you going to say you need to stop that right now?
Well, even if I'm saying you need to stop that right now, I don't think I would ever couch it in language like "I will fuck you up," which is a threat, or "I don't love you." Basically ever. I think you can have really firm boundaries and really hard conversations with people that don't deter into basically like insulting, strong arming people, threatening them, chasing them around the house. Like I think there are a million other ways to have a productive negotiation with your spouse. And I think it's insane to try to argue that like these things that Crowder was doing was clearly his attempt at a healthy, positive negotiation.
So there's no such thing as a wake up call. There's just abuse. No one can say, here's a wake up
didn't
call
say
for
that.
you.
You keep using these insane dichotomies. Like imagine me walking into like a person's bedroom and then punching them in the face. And they're like, "Bro, why are you punching me in the face?" And I'm like, "Oh, so you think I can't give you an alarm clock?" Like that's what you're doing every time we say something. When we say like, "You can't tell your spouse, I'm going to fuck you up if you fail your wifely duties." And you're like, "Oh, so you can never tell your spouse that they need to do a better job?" Nobody's saying that. I don't know why the only thing that exists in your mind is the most radical engagement possible with a person that, by the way, would be completely ineffective at bringing about any change of behavior. All it's going to do is foster resentment and make the person fucking hate you 10 out of 10 times.
You keep assuming that "I will fuck you up" is a physical threat of violence.
No, it doesn't
and
have
there's
to be
not.
a physical threat. There's
Well,
no
you keep
threat.
using that as an
Oh my gosh, my
example.
There is
Serious.
never, I'll
Here
take
we
a
go.
strongest to this. There is never a productive conversation between husband and wife where one party says, "I will fuck you up" in a serious manner that gets resolved in a positive way. That doesn't happen.
That's true.
If you take me to divorce court, I'm going to fuck you up in divorce court. Yes. Yes.
Oh, and since he told me that, now I realize that like we need to work hard on our problems and have a healthy resolution. That's not happening.
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
At
You're
that
not
point, the
going
relationship
to be
is
able to
over.
screw me over here. Yeah, that's right. You can say that. Do you agree,
Isn't
Kyla?
it?
Do you agree with that?
No.
You couldn't.
No.
There's and because that is the context here.
There
She
is
is taking
no
him
context
down, and
where
she's
I would
timed
encourage
it.
partners to say, "I don't love you. It's basically my way or the highway. It's about respect and discipline, and I will fuck you up." There is almost no context I can think of where I go, "Yeah, that'll be a productive, healthy, and positive
I
context."
don't know why
gave
you
you a
said there's
context.
almost no context.
I
There's
just
no
gave you a
context.
There's no
There's
context.
no context.
I just gave you a context.
Yeah, and I reject that. I said no. That would not be a good example of a healthy engagement.
Oh, well, can we answer my question then? What is it that a woman can do that we can say, let's say in the context of a marriage, that we can say, She is to blame, and not say we need to see a therapist, but that there's a moral failing on her part. Can you give me an example?
I'm not engaged with the question. It's a ridiculous question.
Oh, you're
And-
not going to
and if you're-
engage?
No,
Because you
that's a
can't
ridiculous
answer it.
question.
Because
No,
in your
it's
mind,
because-
women cannot
No.
sin.
Okay,
And
if that's
they
what you
can.
think, that's fine. But nothing I say is going to convince you otherwise.
Like, honestly, if you want to talk about like masculinity here, I would argue that you would probably agree that Steven Crowder whinging on the couch because his wife wants to leave is not the most masculine show at all. Like, according to like to your worldview, like it's insane.
I think
It's
he
not
acted,
very
he acted
stoic if
perfectly
you just-
within that. He acted perfectly within the bounds of normal masculinity. Was he absolutely perfect? Why do men have to be absolutely perfect?
You just
Why?
did the dichotomy thing
Why?
again. Why do they have to be perfect?
Oh, my screen share? Oh, okay.
So you could neither of you could come up with an example. So we win this debate.
Based.
There you go. You did it.
Well, the other screen
Thank you
shares
for
were
conceding.
his reaction to her dropping that clip. I don't know if you want to play that, but I mean, it's not super relevant to this part of the conversation.
It's up to everybody.
Grace, we just won the debate. Let's move to Q&A. Let's rip them apart on that too.
All right, let's go.
There's nothing like winning a debate than having to declare over and over that you've won the debate. Yes, true.
Well, I didn't. I knew that Grace had a couple other things there that she might have wanted to share. So if we've already kind of hammered that out, then I think we will move into our
Okay,
Q&A.
guys.
Thank you everybody for being here. I just want to
We're gonna
remind everybody in
pause
the
this.
live chat that the best way to get these debates out there and get these conversations attention
gonna
that they
call it
deserve
on
is by
the-
sharing this out. So if you got a contentious
stopped.
space
I don't
that
know
you
what's going
exist
on with
in,
my
you like to
computer
debate
lag.
in, share this out. Share it with your friends.
Okay, I stopped it. We're closing it out, guys. We're closing it out. We're gonna go ahead and get back to our regular stream. Hopefully, there weren't too many delays. Again, my internet connection's been kind of weird today. We finished what we needed to today, and I was hoping to close out with a game of Risk, but I'm realizing it's like 3 a.m, and so we will probably just call it on the stream. We did finish the page, and it's looking pretty good. I will probably work on coloring this later today or tomorrow, depending on how you view the 2 a.m. kind of time frame. But I would like to try to finish or work on the colors for this tomorrow. And I hope you guys, if you're watching this after the fact, I'm guessing a lot of people will be, because again, this is a late night stream. Have a happy Mother's Day. And yeah, I also, to the people that you love tomorrow, try not to tell anyone that you will fuck them up in the morning. Like, this is not a good thing to say to anyone. Try to not tell people you love that you don't love them. And be good people to each other, regardless of what your take is on this stuff. All right, guys, have a good night, and I will see you on the next live stream where we'll hopefully work on coloring this comic. And if you haven't yet and you're watching this, hit that like button right about now. That'd be good. Just take like 2 seconds, hit the like button. And yeah, and then make sure you're subscribed and you have hit that bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. Like tomorrow, it might be fairly late in the day if I go live working on colors. Also, just shout out to my friends. I believe Gary Hodges is doing a stream tomorrow where he'll be packaging copies of Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots, the latest issue. And I'm excited. I've ordered my copy. But I'd encourage you guys to check out his live stream. And then Philip Chandler is also having Jim Lujan on his channel tomorrow. So check that out if you're able. And thanks again to everybody who watched this. Thanks to people who participated in chats. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. Goodbye.